Friday, January the 7th, 2021. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of That's What G Said podcast. We are going to be bouncing around with the focus on the NFL playoffs this week. Before we get into just to let you know everything going on in the schedule, just, hard to have a show and not mention or just talk about some of the things that have been going on this week. I don't ever really talk about politics on this show. I talk sports, pop culture, movies, shows, a lot of stuff that's fun and entertainment. But this isn't really a political issue to me. This is more of a humanitarian issue. What's going on right now in the world? It's scary. So, this, very, very, very scary. And what happened the other day, there's just no excuse and there's no defending. And, it was just a sad day for America. And hopefully now, with, things changing in the next few weeks, we can slowly move forward. But it's not a pleasant time here. We're going to do our best to try to keep you entertained, keep you updated on everything going on in sports and with the shows and stuff that we cover. But just felt like we had to at least address that a little bit at the beginning. But we won't be talking much more about that right now, and hopefully we won't have too much more to talk about in that sense. What we do have to talk about, NFL playoffs coming up. The Super Wild Card Weekend. We've got Dave Weaver joining for the Saturday games. Erik, ETOF21 Sports, going to talk the Sunday games. Then we're going to get into Saturday horse racing. We've got Gabe Vartanian from the Live and Breathe Horse Racing Group on Facebook joining me. We're going to talk about the Saturday Santa Anita Stakes races. Then we bounce over to Sam Houston with Andy Villanueva. We go through their Pick 6 sequence. It's a mandatory Pick 6 payout on Saturday. Closing things out, Wrestling with Chad Cooper. We discuss what's going on in the world of AEW. We recap the Dynamite. We talked about Monday Night Raw, Smackdown, a little bit of NXT, and some predictions and thoughts early on for the Royal Rumble coming up in a few weeks. Next week, we'll have some Cobra Kai discussion. I wanted it to be good. I didn't want to just fly right through it, and I wanted to bring a guest on that will be better next week, where we can get a little bit more time in it and really break that down. So Cobra Kai recap of Season 3 coming next week. Right now, we're going to get right into the NFL. We start with the Saturday games. On the conversation with Dave, though, it was recorded a little bit earlier, so we didn't talk about the Rams-Seattle game. Was waiting to hear more information about Goff, so we talk about that game with Erik following on the Sunday section. So we spend about 30 minutes with Dave talking about some of the Saturday games and then his best bet, and then we go over and we talk about the other games with Erik following. So NFL coming up in a big playoff wild card weekend. We made it through the NFL season. We are on to the playoffs. Actually, no NFL games got canceled this year. There probably are a few that should have been. Nonetheless, the NFL season got through it. We are on to the playoffs, and I believe the man who joined us for week one, us week one to talk about the first week. Good buddy, you've heard him on That's What She Said before, my old colleague, good friend Dave Weaver from TVG. But one football season comes up, and Dave Weaver from More Ways to Win. Dave Weaver, NFL analyst. How you doing, buddy?
Happy New Year, my man. Yeah, can you believe it? We had a few scares there. I guess we had postponements. We had games that were supposed to be played on Thursday. They got pushed to Saturday. They got pushed to Sunday. They got pushed to Tuesday. But we made it, and a little bit of a different year in that we have that extra team with the one bye. So Chiefs are in and Packers are in. They get to sit back and wait. That's obviously a huge advantage for them.
Funny that you said that. This was the first time. I was reading Peter King's Monday Morning in America, Football Morning in America column, and he had said the first time in pro football's 101 seasons that there was a game played on every day of the week this year.
I don't remember the Friday game.
The Christmas.
Oh,
Christmas.
Okay.
Yeah, that's why, because it doesn't feel like a Friday because it was Christmas Day.
That's right. Okay.
So it felt like another game because it was NBA's on and stuff there. It was Vikings Saints, but 49 Sunday games. So I mean, amazing. Sunday, Monday, Tuesday had the one game, the Baltimore Dallas. Wednesday had the one game, Pittsburgh Baltimore. Thursday had all their Thursday games. Friday had a game. We had the Saturday games that start scheduled, and then the Sundays. So crazy here. It's funny when you watch sports and it's like, oh, okay, everything's been done, but there's always something that's never been done. It's just absurd. So for all the wives or partners or family members that were frustrated to have their significant others watching football. They were like, "What the hell? Football on a Tuesday? This doesn't make it." Right?
The Tuesday
like,
and even the early ones that were supposed to be at like 5 o'clock that were like 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock. Yeah. It was just awesome. I mean, it just spiced up a boring pandemic day when you're stuck at home.
Exactly. So now we got the good games to talk about. So they're calling it Super Wild Card Weekend. I'm going to talk with Dave about the 3 Saturday games. And Dave, what's really cool about this playoff slate in particular, the 14 teams, you mentioned the 2 number 1 seeds that have the bye. So that's for the first time ever, just one team having a bye and making and moving on to the next round. The AFC was loaded. I mean, we had a good Miami team get left out. The NFC towards the bottom wasn't quite as deep, but this feels like a good group. Like, it doesn't feel like even like many down games. There's usually 1 or 2 of the wild card games. You're like, this is kind of like that Saturday early game. We don't get those this year.
No, and there's, I don't think there's one game where you can say this team just cannot win. I mean, I guess Bears and Saints would be maybe the one, but Saints Saints don't always show up. We'll talk about that in a bit.
Actually, 2 years in a row.
I actually like the Saints, but anybody can win on either of these 2 days for sure.
Yeah. So let's talk about Saturday. We get into the opening Saturday game, Indianapolis at Buffalo. The Colts come into this 11-5, 8-8 against the spread. Buffalo 13-3, 11-5 against the spread. They are the hottest team in the league. They have looked really good. And when you go through, both of these teams, but when you go through Buffalo's schedule, they were one of the teams that sort of got screwed by the COVID games that moved around, because they had one of their games when they were supposed to play Tennessee that got bumped back, and then their game against Kansas City got moved around. So they had 2 games that they were trying to sort of prepare for at the same time. They didn't know if they were going to play the Tennessee game. And those are 2 tough opponents to have your schedule all like switched around. You take those 2 games out, their loss was a Hail Mary. I mean, they were good. This is a good team coming in right now, Dave, but they play a good Colts team. This line, I see it at around 6.5. Buffalo, 6.5 point favorite. Over under right now around 51.
Yeah, it's been between 7.5 and 6.5. It did get over a touchdown there a little bit earlier in the week, and Buffalo not only mentioned they've been good against the spread, but they have covered their last 3 games by 20 points. They're favored by 7. They win by 30. But guess what, Gino? That's the regular season. This is the playoffs. And these are the Buffalo Bills. I mean, this is a franchise that hasn't gotten out of the wild card round since 1995. And I'm not saying it matters, those rosters back then versus this roster, but what matters is the pressure that comes with playing for a franchise that can't, get through that wild card round since Jim Kelly was there. And what does that do to Josh Allen? It means he has to try hard, and he's going to play different, I think. You look at last year's playoff game, and he had a good year. He had a better year. He had a better year this year, no doubt about it. He's a better quarterback 1 year removed from 2019. But he was not good in that game against Houston.
They lost because of him.
Throwing balls up in the air.
Backwards,
no touchdowns.
Sack.
So I just think, not that Phillip Rivers has been a godsend in the playoffs when he's with the Chargers, but he's won playoff games. He's won 5 playoff games before. He's 5-2 against the spread in his 7 road playoff games in his life. I'll go with the experienced quarterback and the points. Do the Colts have to beat him? No, I think they can. I think they might. But to lay a touchdown here with Josh Allen in a playoff game, I'm not going to do it. I'm going to take the Colts.
You know what? I don't think this is the greatest matchup for Buffalo. I really don't. Like, of the teams that are in, this is a Colts team that can run the ball pretty well. Deceivingly, Taylor is finished 3rd this year in rushing. After what seemed like an up and down year for him, he was 3rd overall in rushing yards this year. They're going to be missing Costanzo. I think that could hurt them a little bit for the Colts' win chances. But I agree with you. If you can find the 7s out there, or if you got it earlier in the week at above 7, I absolutely take it. And even at anything above like 5, I would still probably take the Colts. But the key number there is 7. Try to look around and find it if you can get that. The Colts are another team. You look at their losses. So they got beaten the first week by Jacksonville. Okay, I just kind of tossed that out. terrible team. They just got beat. Their other losses, they lost at Cleveland. Okay, Cleveland's better than we thought they were going to be this year. They lost to Baltimore, and that game was really deceiving. The Colts were playing really well early. There was a turnover that was a terrible call that ended up giving Baltimore a defensive touchdown and just was like a 14-point swing in the game. It changed it. Their loss to Tennessee, they had a bunch of COVID issues. They were missing all of their best defensive players right up the middle, and Henry ran all over them. They blew the Pittsburgh game. They had Pittsburgh by the neck.
Well, they got screwed anyways. There were like 10 PI calls that could have gone, against Pittsburgh that they didn't call, and then there were 10 that they could have not called against Indy that they called. It was like they got screwed in that game. They were the better team that day too. So that should have been a win.
Game by game, you go through their schedule, and they're well coached. I think they can beat I think they're capable of beating anyone. Like this felt like to me the worst matchup in the first round for one of the better teams, because I just think they can slow the ball down. They have some defensive playmakers. As long as the key here is, the pressure on Rivers. Can Buffalo get the pressure on him? I don't know. I mean, their defense has gotten a lot better, but you don't think of them as like they're going to, get 5 or 6 sacks in this game, which is what you'd probably need to a few to at least start rattling him. So I think the Colts keep it close for sure too. I'm with you. You sort of were hinting at it, and I feel the same way. I don't know if you feel this way. I guess I'm assuming you do. I would play the Bills back again, like moving forward, if they get this one game like monkey off their back. I think they'll relax a lot when they're in situations where they're maybe not supposed to win as much. Like I'd like to play them against a Kansas City, if that were the case, a game or two down the road. But I think they got to get this first one and then have Allen just kind of take a deep breath and go, okay, I can do this.
Mm-hmm. And the Colts are one of the few teams that they have a top 10 offense and a top 10 defense. So both sides of the ball, their lines are fantastic, especially their offensive line. But, Buffalo is a top 5 offense, but they're mid-pack defensively, I think 16th out of 32 when it comes to scoring defense. So the Colts are going to be able to put up their points. Just going to take Josh Allen to have a huge game and, run for a couple of touchdowns and throw for a couple of touchdowns and to really play pressure free, but I don't think that's what's going to really happen.
Yeah, I could see a close game here, like Bills by 3 with, I could see it being a who gets the ball last with a chance to win the game type of game. And is that going to be Josh Allen, or is it going to be, Phillip Rivers and a Colts, like a really well-coached Colts team, which, hey man, this Bills team is really good too. Like there's no knocks on them at all. I just feel like that's a little bit much, the number. If it was around 4 or 5, like I said, I probably still lean Bills, but once it gets up to that 6-7 number, I think that's a little too much for a Colts team that can keep it close.
And the Bills had no fans all year long, and I thought I read that they were going to have maybe 6 or 7,000. They're going to get some. Yeah, so that could help.
Jumping through tables, man. The Bills Mafia. They're going to be jumping through those tables. Yeah, some of the craziest fans. That's one thing I'm really happy for. The Bills fans and the Browns fans, although the Browns, they feel like they don't really have much of an opportunity now this week with the COVID issues they have. But the Bills, great fans, great fan base, and a really fun opening game to the NFL playoffs this year with the Colts at the Bills. The middle game on Saturday, we got the NFC East winner, Washington, who was able to sort of kind of fall their way in after the Eagles put up the red flag last week mid-game. And the Bucs, on the other hand, they've looked really good because their schedule really eased up towards the end of the year. The thing is if you look at the teams that the Bucs have played, they've all been teams that don't put a lot of pressure on the quarterback, which is what hurts Brady. He's been able to just sit back and throw and do whatever he wants. That is one of the strengths of this Washington team. They can go get you on the defensive end, especially with Young, who has just been incredible. Washington is an 8-point underdog at home right now. I'm seeing 44.5 or so for the total. So Tampa's got to go on the road, even with the better record, even playing a losing team in the NFL. You win your division, you get that home game. Washington, the home dog here against the Bucs. Some of your thoughts, Dave?
It just seems like Washington has gone through so much this year with their coach, overcoming cancer, Alex Smith coming off of multiple years of rehabbing his leg. I mean, the fact that he's even walking is amazing, let alone getting out on the gridiron and managing games, 5 straight wins when Alex Smith has started. Ron Rivera, I mean, this guy's just been through so much, and to have a chance to win a playoff game, I think they have a chance to do it.
I do too.
Definitely with the points. I think they can pass enough. I'm not sold on Tampa's secondary, and they stuff the run. So it could be a long game on the ground. Alex Smith's going to have to work some magic, get some balls to McLaurin, get some balls to Sims, he's been hooking up with that young receiver as well this season, and a couple of tight ends that he can rely on. So I think they can pass the ball against Tampa. Now, you just need to somehow keep Tom Brady from putting 3 touchdowns up in the first half and opening up a 21-0 lead. That would be the end of it, I think, if Tampa just, bulldozes them early. But if this can be a little bit of a slower pace game where Washington can score first, get up a touchdown, maybe give one up, keep it 13-10 at halftime, I see no reason why Washington can't cover the touchdown plus.
Yeah, it just feels like a really bad matchup for Brady and that offense going up against a really good defensive front like that. So the key is, like you said, I think for Washington offensively, can't turn the ball over, right? Can't no giveaways. Even if you have to go 3 and out and punt here and there, like try to play your best field position. Don't give Tampa any short fields, any opportunities. Make them earn it against your strong defense. Like sort of play it like your defense is your offense. I'm not saying don't do anything offensively, but if Alex Smith is in there, the short Alex Smith passing game is great. You can try to use a little play action if you can, but you said it's so hard to root against this Washington team, and that's not why I like them in this spot. I think because a team that's got a really good defense as a home underdog, they are going to be playing against a Tampa team that just played Minnesota, at Atlanta, Detroit, and at Atlanta. We're talking about bad defenses there, and that was what helped Tampa look really, really good and beat up. It's funny, there are a couple teams that you could look at their schedule in the middle of the season, and you could see, and what's going to happen. They're going to win 3 or 4 games. This was a team I had circled all along that I was going to play against in the first round. Not saying that they won't win this game, but they were going to be a little bit overvalued because they beat up on some terrible defenses over their last few. They played a Detroit team that had nobody there, that was ravaged from COVID, and none of their staff either. Like they're missing their coaching staff too. And Atlanta's defense has been a little bit better in the second half, but they're nothing to write home about. Minnesota's defense, I think Zimmer just said they were awful. So I'm with you, man. This just feels like a little too much. More than the touchdown, give me Washington.
And I think it helps that Ron Rivera, all those years in Carolina, he knows the Tampa Bay defensive players very well. And actually Carolina, as an underdog in a lot of those games against Tampa over the years, have won. So I like the fact that he kind of knows his team well. And it's too many points, and they're at home, and nobody's expecting them to do anything, right? So there's no pressure on them. They just go out there and can have a little bit of fun.
None at all. I mean, an early turnover, you get Chase Young, a strip sack, you put a little pressure on them, and if you put Tampa in this position where they have to throw the ball, and you know that you can put a little pressure on them, Tampa 11-5 straight up, 9-7 against the spread. Washington 7-9 straight up, 9-7 though against the spread. And I feel like even at 7-9, they've overachieved a little bit, because now we're seeing with Haskins some of the things that he did coming out. It's like you were never going to win games with that guy. And all they had to do was put in like a serviceable quarterback, someone who almost had their leg like not with them now, and he was able to win games for them because they have a good coach, they have a good defense, and they feel like they believe and they buy in. I think this is a good spot for them to at least keep it close. So I think we both agree that in the first 2 games, the underdogs not only have a chance to cover, but would not surprise me if they won. I probably feel a little bit different about the last game in that, I think the Bears could keep it within 10, especially because 10 is a number where you could be down by 16 and get a garbage touchdown late and cover. I think if Drew Brees is healthy as he's looked in the last few weeks and their defense continues to play really well, Chicago's one of those teams sort of like Tampa. Their offense looked really good for a few weeks because they were playing against like the 23rd, the 28th, the 29th, and the 32nd defenses in the league. They were just beating up on terrible, terrible defenses, and defenses that if you just like whoever they played against, their quarterback rating was like a Rodgers rating. So it really was that bad. I don't know if Chicago can keep up here. They sort of backed into the playoffs too. They couldn't beat Green Bay last week to get in. New Orleans -10, over under 47.
I like New Orleans. I just can't. I can't take a chance with an offense that was terrible. I mean, I kept waiting for Allen. I bet Allen Robinson as an anytime touchdown scorer against the Packers. I don't even know if he got a ball thrown at him last week. It was like, what is going on here? Where's all this offense that I was expecting from the Bears? And I did love the Saints. I mean, I love Sean Payton. I love the Saints. They just, God, I mean, they're so creative offensively when they can mix Taysom Hill in there in any spot and get him into the end zone. And Drew Brees is, I'm not sold on him. He's getting older, and I don't know how many big games he has left. But the fact that they are where they are, with Michael Thomas basically being a non-factor for all 16 games. I mean, this was the guy that last year
led the league. He broke records
like 15 times a game, and it was just like automatic.
Him moving down the field was like their
first
offense.
Downs with him. He hasn't been a factor whatsoever, and they still are, almost got the bye. But I just think their offense is so much better than the Bears defensively. I mean, I wouldn't even think that the Bears defense is as good as the Saints. So I think, every category you look at favors the Saints. I'm going to say, let's go 37-17.
That's
so
funny.
I think they're going to cover. I think they're going to win by 20.
That's amazing. I was thinking 37-20. I had almost the same exact number in my head. Yeah, I mean, even like all of the advanced metrics too. The Football Outsiders has the Saints as the number 1 team in DVOA this year. They had the number 7th ranked offense, and now keep that in mind. That was including the games with Taysom Hill, where their offense didn't look nearly as good. They were still able to win because they played some bad teams. They have their defense ranked number 2 overall, and they're always a really good special teams too. That's another thing that people don't think about. Special teams, they're always a top 5 to top 10 special teams each and every year. So they don't give away points here and there. Things were so weird with Chicago this year. They start so hot, and then they were terrible to the point where everybody's talking about is Nagy going to get fired, or what are they going to do? What's with Trubisky? Then they win a few games in a row, and now it's like, oh, everything's great. We're going to re-sign Trubisky. Who knows? But you back into the playoffs. You're only 8-8. It's been a really weird year for them. I still don't feel like they're coming into this going, okay, awesome. Yeah, we're in the playoffs here. We're going to go beat New Orleans. I just don't know what the vibe is in that locker room.
Well, they were 5-1, and then all of a sudden they're 5-7. They went from like having a 90% chance of making the playoffs to having an 8% chance of making the playoffs. Yep. And then last week, all they had to do was win, or if Arizona loses. So they were able to lose and still get in. But I mean, to me, they're the team that is entering this year's playoff sputtering. Yep. Well, the Steelers, I think, are the other team. We're not going to talk about Sunday's games,
let's
but
talk
I
about
like
the
the
Steelers
Browns
a little bit, because that's your team, and
but they're sputtering, and the Bears are sputtering.
Yeah, and like the Steelers, who come into the playoffs, they were a good half away from losing 5 in a row. Mm-hmm. And who knows, they would have probably played things differently last week against the Browns. You never know, right? If they had to win that game, maybe they don't lose. Who knows? But they did not play good football for a while. They were winning games where they did not play good football. And now it's a situation where when the line came out and it looked like most people were going to be around for Cleveland, it opened up at 3.5 as Pittsburgh just a 3.5 point favorite. It's now moved up to 6 because of some players going to be missing with COVID. They're not going to have head coach Kevin Stefanski and a couple other coaches. But it feels weird. It feels like one of these situations where I think people may be overreacting a little much, and it could be like Cleveland sort of comes into this game with nothing to lose.
What are the rules? Are you allowed to coach a game via Zoom? I mean, I'm serious. Right? Like, is he allowed to be in communication with anybody, giving them play calls or giving them strategies, or is he ruled out and it's illegal for him to have any communication? I mean, it's not like he's suspended. He's not there. But in 2021, is there the technology for him to coach from offsite? I don't know. Let's assume he's not. I still think the Steelers are so bad that the Browns beat them even without a few key players and without their coach, because they've just been stinking it up. And the one win against Indy, I think, was zebra-aided, to say the least. That should have been a loss. And, you could say, well, they only beat Mason Rudolph by 2 points last week. Well, that was the dress rehearsal. Cleveland knew it too. They didn't need to win by 20. Save a little something for here. Baker Mayfield never had a chance to play in a playoff game, so it's hard for me to pick against Josh Allen and knock him and saying there's too much pressure for a franchise that has never gotten out of the playoffs in a long time, and then all of a sudden say, well, Baker Mayfield can do it. But I think Baker can. I think the matchup against the Steelers for the Browns is much better than the matchup for the Bills against the Colts.
Completely agree. The Steelers' run defense has not been good in the second half of the year either, which is what is Cleveland's strength and what they want to do. Just run the ball right at you. Big Ben has not looked great. Receiver drops. People are, I think, forgetting how bad the Steelers looked for a while because they looked pretty good for one half coming back and beating the Colts. And then everyone just assumed, oh, everything's great, we're fine. And then they didn't play again next week. So I don't know. It's putting a lot of stock into that one half having fixed a lot of things that seemed wrong for Pittsburgh, throughout the year when they were winning. They were winning games a lot of times. And I think after the game against the Ravens, Ben was pissed off on TV when he was talking, even though they won that game and the Ravens were missing a bunch of players with
everybody.
With COVID stuff, and it was still way closer than it should have been. So you are a Steelers fan. You'd love to see them win by 30 here, but you definitely, I agree in that. I think Cleveland has an opportunity to win that game and keep it close. And I wasn't impressed with Pittsburgh the last 6-7 weeks of the year.
I'm with you. And the only game we didn't talk about, it's my best bet of the weekend, Baltimore to just maul the diseased Tennessee Titans defense that's going to give up 50 points. I think Baltimore is the max out alt line minus 20, whatever you can get to get the maximum odds on that, because they score on every single possession. That's the offense right now that nobody wants to play right now in the NFL. And unfortunately for Tennessee, they drew that straw in week 1, and I think they're going to get steamrolled.
Tennessee is 29th in defensive DVOA for Football Outsiders. The only teams that are worse than them in overall defense, Houston, Jacksonville, and Detroit. That's it. Yeah. That's it. And they're bad.
Houston shredded Tennessee. I mean, I kept waiting for Tennessee to pull away and get up by 20.
The Bengals,
and then Houston just kept scoring and scoring and scoring.
This is different than I feel like with Tampa, who had a soft schedule towards the end of the year, because Baltimore didn't beat up on a bunch of great teams, although they did beat Cleveland in that really great fun Monday night football game. But they I feel like I know I wanted to see their offense get going, and two, this defense they're playing is terrible. They're not playing against – this isn't like they made the playoffs and now they're playing against a really good Washington defense or a New Orleans defense or, any of these defenses that are at least mediocre to good. Tennessee's defense is literally bottom 5. They are bad. This is put up or shut up time, no excuses time for Baltimore. They got beat by this team the last 2 times. They shouldn't have lost to them in the regular season. They were up early and they just sort of choked it away late. I think this is redemption time for Lamar and for Baltimore here.
I'm with you. That's my best bet.
Dave Weaver, so we're recording this on Thursday afternoon. What is your schedule like for Friday, Saturday, Sunday over the weekend? What do you have going on as far as shows for the playoffs and all that moving forward?
So we recorded this morning, and we aired on TVG this morning with More Ways to Win, and that'll rerun on some local networks throughout the country. We pop up on some markets where sports betting's allowed. We buy half-hour time slots in New York and Pennsylvania and Chicago. So the show actually gets a little bit more eyeballs than just TVG this year. And then you can watch it, FanDuel.com/stream is a live stream where you can watch the show as well. But I'm done for the week as far as having to, to do
there you go.
anything. So you're the last one I'm talking to about any of these games.
Go crack the beers open now.
Exactly.
You can relax.
You saw my last tweet where I had the shirt on that says forecast for the weekend: horse racing with the chance of drinking. That's me.
think that's more than a chance. I would
100%.
forecast that as 100%. And great gift from the wifey, right? I saw that. Yeah,
that's awesome.
Awesome stuff.
So it'll be a fun weekend of just watching football and not having to work. You know how rare that is.
Yeah, well, Netley, Sophie, hope everybody's doing great. Give the family some love, and I miss you, buddy. Hopefully when things calm down a little bit, we'll get a chance to catch up and go get a beer and have some dinner sometime soon. Thank you so much.
Milo's first or second playoffs?
This is really second because he was born in November last year. But yeah, so this is his second run through the football playoffs. But he's starting to figure things out now. Like he'll sit down for a little while and actually end up watching and like get hooked in like a basketball or a football because he just likes this when things are moving around. Great colors. It's great. So we'll have him wagering on games and talking on That's What G Said and not too long, just like you were doing with Sophie. So
yeah, last year didn't count for him. This is the first real year.
Yeah, now he knows what's going on. So thanks so much, buddy. Always great talking to you. I'll talk to you over the weekend, and we'll have to catch up again real soon.
All right, good luck. Thanks.
That is Dave Weaver. Ice cold Dave Weaver. We're going to take a quick break here on That's What G Said. We'll be back with plenty more. Don't go anywhere. Big thanks to Dave for helping us out with those first few football games. Really, we ended up getting to most of all of them with some thoughts on some of the other Sunday games, too. Before we get into the other half of the games with Erik, we're going to talk a little about SarahCandles.com, all-natural soy wax candles. They are better for you. None of those toxins, those carcinogens, those pollutants that are in a lot of the other leading candle brands. This is all natural soy wax. You use the promo code GINO, gets you 10% off your purchase. CERAcandles.com, 25 different options, seasonal scents, scents for any mood, any time, 3 different sizes. Local small business that loves candles. They just wanted to create the perfect candle. And now they've been able to do that. They're sharing it with you. SarahCandles.com, promo code GINO gets you 10% off your purchase. Next up, a little more NFL. We head over and talk about the Rams-Seahawks game and then the 3 Sunday games with Erik, ETOF 21 Sports. More football on That's What G Said. More NFL talk on That's What G Said podcast. Playoffs coming up this weekend. We talked with Dave Weaver about most of the games, but we focused in on the Saturday games. The one we didn't really talk a whole lot about was the Saturday game with the Rams Seahawks. And because when we were recording with Dave, we still didn't really have a lot of information about Goff, if he was going to play. Looks like we got a little more information. So we're going to talk about that game and the 3 Sunday games with our good buddy. You've heard him all throughout the year here on That's What G Said podcast. Erik, ETOF 21 Sports. How's it going, bud?
It's going good, man. Going good. Found out the Daytona 500 is on Valentine's Day this year, so I have to figure out how to deal with that. But other than that, I got no complaints, man.
That's funny. I remember one time I had bought tickets very early on to a Monday Night Raw with one of my buddies, and then I started dating, and it ended up being on Valentine's Day. But when we bought the tickets a couple months in advance, I didn't have a girlfriend at the time, and then I got a girlfriend. We start dating, and it's like, oh hey, by the way, I've got plans with my buddy on Valentine's Day. We're going to see Monday Night Raw at the Anaheim Pond. But she was cool. She didn't mind. It was just I remember having to break that news, thinking in my head like, I wonder how she's going to respond here to me saying Monday Night Raw instead of you on Valentine's Day.
I mean, I'm just playing scenarios in my head right now how to figure out where I can watch the Daytona 500. So that if that's my biggest worry, I can't really complain about my life. So
I was gonna say exactly. It could be a lot worse, and we've got a 6 slate of playoff games coming up this weekend. So let's talk about that middle Saturday game first. As I was mentioning, didn't really talk a whole lot about that Rams Seahawks game earlier because we weren't sure the Goff news. It sounds like Goff's going to play though now. Do you get that same feeling?
I already locked in the Rams +4 on Tuesday because everything I've read, everything I've heard said that Goff would be playing.
Yep.
And it's not necessarily because of Goff throwing the ball. It's because Seattle's going to have at least to respect him throwing the ball. Mm-hmm. If Woodford, the other guy, was going to be playing, I mean, they were going to crowd the box because he really can't throw the ball at all. Also, you have to factor in the Rams are getting back Kupp, O-Lineman, and Akers is close to 100%.
Yep.
However, because Goff isn't 100%, I really expect McVay is going to use Akers a lot, lean on Akers a lot, run that jet sweep they likes to run with Bobby Trees, do all that to set up the play action pass because the deep balls, Seattle is awful defending, and I really expect that's going to be the game plan for the Rams going in on the offensive side of the ball. When you look at the Rams defense, their defense is great. I thought when Wade Phillips left, I thought the defense was going to take a huge step back.
I'm
three
shocked.
DBs. Oh, it's great. I mean, like I thought for sure they were going to struggle this year. They are playing great. They are top DVOA in pretty much every category there is.
Mm-hmm.
Their 3 DBs are all ranked in the top 25 of Pro Football Focus. And when you look at Wilson's stats, the 2 times they played, add them up, he's throwing for less than 475 yards, only 1 TD, and 2 interceptions. And the second half of the season, Seattle is throwing the ball 6% less on early downs. That means you have to worry less about their 2 big playmakers in DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. Because honestly, Chris Carson and Carlos Hyde, they don't scare me at all. So, I mean, I already locked in the Rams +4. I set that out to everyone that's a member of my betting service. And I also expect that when the news does officially break that Goff is playing, the number 42 with the over-under sitting at now is going to tick up to 42.5, maybe even a 43. If that's the case, I'm going to hit the under because I expect both teams, because this is the 3rd time playing, to be a grimy, low-scoring game.
Yep. Rams 10-6 straight up, 9-7 against the spread. Seattle 12-4 straight up, 8-8 against the spread. Right now, this game is at Seattle -3.5, -4 in some spots, but I think you're right. It probably is going to go down. It's going to go. The over/under will go up a little, and this number will probably go the Rams' way with the Goff news. So at that number, more than a field goal in a game that I think is going to be close between 2 teams, absolutely. Give me the what feels like a little bit of value there with the Rams.
And plus Jamal Adams, he's not 100%.
Adams, he's been awesome, like unbelievable. It's really funny the way Seattle's season has gone, because through the first 5 or 6 weeks, it was like Russ is the MVP. Their offense is incredible. They're just going up and down on everyone, and their defense was an absolute sieve. Like, they were terrible. They couldn't stop anyone. And they sort of a flip-flop. Like, their offense efficiently has taken major steps back, but their defense has gotten much, much better. So that the under feels like a good play in here.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. For sure. People need to remember, this isn't like a week 13 game. This is lose and you're out. So teams are going to definitely play games a lot closer to their chest and not take as many risks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're absolutely right. You don't, especially against a team like this, where you don't want to make a mistake in a situation where Goff is already a little banged up and you got an awesome defense. Like, just let your defense keep you in the game. You're going to have to make a couple plays here, a couple drives, a couple scores, and that's probably all it's going to take to win this game.
Oh, for sure. I could see 2017 Rams. If gun to my head, that'd be my prediction.
Let's move to Sunday. We got the Sunday morning game, Baltimore at Tennessee. Baltimore got beat by Tennessee in the playoffs last year. Baltimore played Tennessee earlier this season. They got beat in a game that Baltimore had, and they completely dropped. This is Baltimore -3.5 or so right now. I see the over/under at 54.5. They are on the road, though. They are playing Tennessee. Baltimore 11-5, 10-6 against the spread, and Tennessee 11-5, 7-9 against the spread.
Ravens, they are hitting their stride. They're starting to get everyone back healthy on defense, which is huge. They have the 2nd best scoring defense, and their offense has looked good the last 6 games. And Lamar is finally looking like Lamar after coming back from COVID. The big stat that stuck out to me and why I took the Ravens -3 as soon as it ticked down to that is the Ravens are averaging 191.3 yards rushing per game, which is tops in the NFL. The Titans finished the season 7th worst DOVA versus the run. That is a huge advantage for the Ravens. And I really expect, last year in the playoffs, the game was fluky. Like, the Ravens didn't convert some 4th downs, and they outgained the Titans by 200 yards. And when they played earlier this season, they didn't have Everett Campbell wasn't healthy on defense. So they were missing some key pieces. So we have to remember when we're looking back at that. On the defensive side of the ball, I expect the Ravens to stack 8 men in the box. And you have to remember, this is why they got Campbell. They got Campbell on this team to be the run stopper against Derrick Henry. They're going to put 8 men in the box, force Tannehill to beat them against the 3 DBs of Humphreys, Jimmy Smith, and Marcus Peters. I love the Ravens here. And also when I'm reading all these previews, no one's talking about the huge special team advantage. I cannot trust the Titans kicker to kick a field goal. With the Ravens, anything shorter than 56, I know Tucker is going to make it. And then also that fake field goal, how the living hell did the Titans not realize last week that A.J. McLaren was back there in the punt formation and it wasn't going to be a fake? That blows my mind. There is a huge special teams advantage. So I definitely like the Ravens minus the 3. Also, 55. 55 is a huge number in the playoffs. I expect both teams to ground and pound the ball. Ravens because they want to keep Derrick Henry off the field. And I expect the Titans to do the same because Vrabel realizes how shitty his defense is.
You were mentioning the special teams difference, just using that metric that we've been talking about a little bit, DVOA from Football Outsiders. Baltimore's 2 in special teams. Tennessee's 28.
That's insane.
Baltimore is awesome. You're right. They don't give points away with Tucker and with the field position game that they're able to play. And Tennessee their defense is so bad on both sides. You were talking about the run. Their pass defense is atrocious too, which means Lamar doesn't have to be as good or as pinpoint accurate in that type of a situation, right? You don't have these lockdown corners there at Tennessee who make it the small margin of error for you to succeed. That's not the case when you're playing against them. I agree. I think this feels like a great spot for Baltimore here. And the Tennessee defense, I just cannot trust. This is a team that you and I have been playing against all year long, and they should be worse than their record is. They probably have 3 more losses on their schedule than they had.
I mean, they won last week because the field goal boinked in. I mean, that was amazing to me. I like the amount of stuff that has gone this team's way the last 2 years. It's just a matter of time before it just bounces the other way.
Yep, and same thing. Like they can run the ball well with Henry, but if you get down a little bit, which can they continue to stay with that if Baltimore's moving the ball? I got a feeling Baltimore is going to really play well in this spot too. They're a 3.5. You know, you mentioned you got the number at 3. At 3.5 is obviously not nearly as good of a number as 3, but if anything like under 4 to 5, I definitely would lean Baltimore. I just can't. I can't play Tennessee here. I can't.
And also the Titans offense, and they showed that last year against the Chiefs in the playoffs. It's not built to come from behind. If the Ravens can get up a quick 10-0, this game is over in my eyes, just because they're just not built to come from behind. Granted, they made a run in the Browns game.
That was garbage, though.
But I mean, the Browns are playing prevent defense.
Exactly.
I mean, the Browns weren't really doing anything. So
that was garbage.
You can't like look into that. I think the Ravens roll in this game like a 24-10.
Yeah, I'm pretty confident in Baltimore in that spot also. We go to the middle game on Sunday. It is the Bears at the New Orleans Saints. This is the biggest point spread of all the NFL games in the week 1 of the playoffs. The Saints are now a 10-point favorite. The over-under is about 47. The Bears are 8-8, 8-8 against the spread. Saints are 12-4, 9-7 against the spread.
In the past, I have made some serious coin fading the Saints in the playoffs because every year the Saints have the best roster in the NFC and they underachieves. What makes me think this is going to be different? Absolutely nothing. You have Kamara, who may or may not be coming back. And by the way, Kamara is an idiot for going to the nightclub. You can wait a couple weeks to see some titties, dude.
Yeah, I mean, come on.
He's an idiot. And you have no idea how COVID-19 is going to affect him. With Lamar, it hasn't affected Lamar at all. But with Cam Newton, you can obviously see Cam wasn't the same player post-COVID as he was pre-COVID. So you don't know how that's going to affect Kamara. That number 2, what are you going to get from Mike Thomas? Like, he has this alleged ankle injury, but I just always found it weird that he had this magical ankle injury as soon as Drew Brees was coming back. I really think with what happened in the preseason with the Brees and the standing for the anthem and everything, and him and Thomas went at it a little bit on Twitter, I really think there's some underlying issues in there that led to the fight that was into the practice.
Yeah.
So I think there's some underlying issues here. So I can't back the Saints, especially when they're laying a double-digit number almost, even if though it's at home and against the Bears. Now I look at the Bears. The Bears have been great on offense, and that's because Lasers took over and he's finally running the ball with David Montgomery to set up the pass. But The Saints are second DVOA against the run, so I really think Montgomery's going to struggle here. So it all comes down, if you're betting aside, can you trust Mitch Trubisky? And I'm just going to say it. Trubisky against the Texans won me so much money in DFS. I'll never forget that. I mean, there's certain weeks in DFS. He's always gonna have a special place in my heart. Always will have a special place in my heart. But I cannot.
This is not the Texans
in this situation. However, though, I do think since the Bears secondary has some issues, the Saints will be able to score points. Since the Saints are going to be able to score points, because this is a one and gun situation, I expect Laser and Nagy to take more chances on offense, to go for stuff more, and to kind of push the pedal more. So I do expect this game to be a little bit more higher scoring than people think. I have already locked in the over 47. I see this one as like a 35. Saints put up 35. I could see the Bears put up anywhere from 21 to 28 points.
That's so funny. When we did the prediction of this game a little bit earlier, because Dave likes this game, we talked about what we thought, and we said something like 37 to 20. So we're all right in the same ballpark as far as where we see this game. I agree. I think the over is a good play in here too. I just wouldn't want to lay the 10 because it's such a bad situation to get backdoored, right? To be up 16 or 17 and then Chicago scores a late touchdown and then you lose and New Orleans wins by 9 and you don't cover. So, and I don't feel confident enough in the Bears, but I do feel confident enough in both these teams. I think scoring some points at that number there of 47. So yeah, I'm with you. I think we're both on the over on this side. The final game of the weekend, just a bummer because I was so pumped for Cleveland, for their fans. It's taken 20 years to get into the playoffs. They finally are there. They have to, have a suffer through some painful moments last week where it almost looked like they had a chance to lose that game, but they get the big first down late. They're in, and now we find out no Kevin Stefanski. They're going to be missing a key offensive lineman. They had 17 players over the last 2 weeks on and off the COVID list with different issues. Unfortunately, it's just not the best way for Cleveland to be going into the playoffs on the road against one of their rivals for their first playoff game in almost 2 decades.
First of all, I have to say this. After I was on last week, I got so many DMs questioning me about my take on Stefanski. And I just want to say last week's game against the Steelers kind of illustrated my issues with Stefanski. Because you look at how the game went. First series of the game, Chubb, 11-yard run, 3-yard run, 47-yard touchdown run. Next series, Chubb's out. No, Chubb wasn't even on the field. Punt the ball. Series after, Chubb comes back on, primary running back in that series, drive all the way down to the 5, kick the field goal. Next series, no Chubb. Why is he cycling running backs? Chubb is a top 3 running back. Kareem Hunt, yeah, he's top 20, but he's nowhere near Nick Chubb level. So that's my issue with Stefanski, because I literally had 8 people DM me questioning me about my Stefanski take last week. So I just wanted to say that. Now let's look at the game. My parents were hard asses, are still hard asses. And when I was young, they had this saying they'd always tell me. They always say, winners win, they don't make excuses. These last 2 weeks, all it showed me is that the Browns right now, and that's not saying they can develop into winners later on, but right now where they are not winners. You look at the game versus the Jets. They had zero business losing that game. I don't care that they didn't have any wide receivers. You still have Nick Chubb, who only ran the ball 11 times, caught the ball 5 times, and you're having Mayfield throw the ball 53 times. Is that really their formula to win? No. And then last week they're playing the Steelers team. Steelers are basically sitting out anyone of any relevance to the team, and they almost lost. It was a two-point conversion away from tying the game. Mason Rudolph, he threw for 300 yards, 300 yards, 2 TDs, and the Browns players are on the sidelines jumping around like they won the Super Bowl. The whole way this team acts, you have Higgins and the offensive lineman worse drag racing. That's how they're preparing for the first playoff game in God knows how many years. All this COVID breaking out. And then you just look at the pure matchup. Steelers are really good at getting the quarterback. Guess what quarterback has a 47 completion percentage when facing pressure? Baker Mayfield. And then you factor in all these, the COVID stuff. No Stefanski. Stefanski's calling plays. Stefanski was calling plays. Now Van Pelt is calling plays. How is he going to react when stuff gets off script? If the Steelers get up a quick 14-0, 14-3, 10-0. Is
I mean,
he going to panic?
We never see somebody having to call plays for the first time in a playoff game.
Yeah,
can you imagine when, like, has that ever happened? Like, maybe if a coach was sick or something, but when would somebody ever be calling plays for a particular group for the first time of the year in a playoff game?
And it's totally different. And, like, I don't know if you remember this, but it was maybe like 4 or 5 years ago. The Texans were playing somebody on a Sunday night game, and that's the game where Kubiak fell down and, like, had, like, a heart issue. Mm-hmm. And he was calling plays. Someone else started calling plays for the Texans, and the offense looked completely different. That's the only, like, tangent that I could find when I started thinking of the situation. And then also you have to, like, how you become comfortable with people, communicating with people. I mean, hell, I've been coming on this and talking to you since February of last year. Mm-hmm. When you and I first started talking, you and I weren't used to talking to each other, so we'd constantly be interrupting. And
you're right.
You know what I mean? Now it's like you and I just flow. And, like, how is Mayfield going to have, is he going to misunderstand? Is he going to have that communication flow? There's just way too many questions here. I like the Steelers, and I'm pissed at myself for not locking in the -4. I locked it in at -6 after the Stefanski news. I think the Browns are just happy to be there. They're missing all offensive linemen, like you said, and it's just a bad matchup for them. And it's the third time the Steelers play them. The Steelers offense, what they started doing against the Colts is they started taking shots down the field, and that opened up the offense more. And also with the Browns, they had a negative 11-point differential this year. How is that possible with 11 wins?
Got the crap kicked out of them a few times against good teams, and one of them against this Pittsburgh team. If this number got to 7, I might dive in backwards to the Browns as an overreaction and being too much. I don't think they're going to be able to win this game. I really don't. I wonder if Pittsburgh and now, because it's the playoffs, I don't know if Pittsburgh's going to quote unquote take them lightly, but it's one of those situations where when you kind of think you're playing an undermanned team, you sort of don't feel like you have to do as much. And I honestly, if they were healthy, I was going to play the Browns against the Steelers. And now I don't think with the Stefanski stuff and him just not being around, like, that's as important as, like, a key player on your team. This guy who is, like you said, he's struggled the last couple of weeks, but he's the reason this team is here with what he's done for them with putting their players in good situations most of the year. Like you said, maybe Cleveland with Van Pelt can sort of have a different type of offense and maybe a little bit different than what Pittsburgh is expecting. It's like I want to play the Browns. I really do, because I've rooted for them most of the year, and you were definitely against them last year, and then much more higher on them bouncing back this year with, like, at least an adult in the room with Stefanski. I just don't think they're coming into this game with, like, at this point with this number at 6. I'd have to get it at 7.5 to where I could lose by a touchdown and still cover with the Browns there. If they're down early, they're going to be in some big trouble.
But, I mean, your comment was hit on the head. There's no adult in the room right now.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like,
he was
think
the one.
about when you're a kid. Like, your mom and dad left. Okay, let's tear the house up. Let's have a party.
Yeah.
You know
Substitute
what I mean?
teacher comes in, and it's just different, right? Like, when the teacher's gone, you're right. And so yeah, it's this. I feel bad for them, and I guess on the other side, it's Pittsburgh. This is a great spot for Pittsburgh, because they're playing an undermanned team. Like, in any other matchup, I probably would have played against Pittsburgh. They only had, like, one good half of football in the last month and a half. That second half against Indy. Other than that, they played like crap most of the games. And then last week's game against the Browns is kind of hard to gauge because they weren't even really playing. They overachieved for who was actually on the field. But leading up to that Colts game, and even the first half of that game, Pittsburgh had been really, really bad. I was sort of kind of high on playing against them. They've got the most perfect matchup in the most perfect spot against an undermanned team and understaffed coaching staff, Cleveland. And it's like I said, I'd need the number to move more to the 7.5 range for me to actually jump in.
And then also, I'm not a trends guy. I am the furthest thing from a trends better. But when I read this stat, it blew my mind. First-time quarterbacks starting against a veteran, a person that started multiple times in the playoffs, was 13-22 against the spread, which is mind-boggling. And I don't think the Browns have won like in 18 years at Heinz Field. when they played their, I think it was week 6 or 7 of this year, the spread, because everyone was high on the Browns, got all the way down to 3. And I think the score was like 38-7. The Steelers won. It was a complete blowout. The Browns, I've said this before when I've been out here, they're that team. They're going to beat teams they should and lose to better teams. They're just, you know what I mean? They just got.
And they did, and that's why they're in the playoffs, because they at least did that, except for the Jets game this year. They at least did that. They beat the teams they were supposed to. They didn't lose games like last year and the years past that they were. But they played with the Ravens, but they still didn't win that game. They have to prove. And you know, the Titans and Colts, do you want to call them good or mediocre teams? They're solid teams, but they have to prove they can beat a good team, a Bills, a Kansas City, a Pittsburgh in this situation. They still have to prove it. There's no doubt about it. So third time that we'll be seeing a Browns-Pittsburgh game this year. They split, but again, last week Pittsburgh didn't have Roethlisberger and was sitting a lot of their starters. So I thought the matchups this week are all pretty darn good. Normally, especially with an extra teams making it, it didn't feel too watered down. You know, Washington obviously has a losing record. The Bears aren't anything world beaters, but there's always a year where there's a bad division or so. And really, Washington has a pretty good defense at least. They a defense that can probably keep them in that game a little bit.
Yeah, and also this is the third time and that a losing team has made it, and I believe a couple times a team with a losing record has won.
Seattle beat the Saints at home.
Seattle beat the Saints.
That was the very beginning of Pete Carroll coming in. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I mean, that game for me, really quickly, how I look at that game, I think that game's going to be a little closer than people think and low scoring. Just because I really like Chase Young and Washington's ability to get to Brady and to hurry him up. Brady has been doing better on the deep throws, but Washington defends the deep ball pretty well. I think Washington's defense is going to be able to keep them in that game.
Yep, I completely agree. And if Smith can at least be serviceable, manageable there, not turn the ball over, he's given them the best opportunity to win. So I like the slate. I mean, the Colts-Buffalo game to start, those are two really good teams. You know, the Colts could keep that game. Buffalo's playing great. The Colts could keep that game close. I love the slate this weekend, Erik. I really appreciate you giving us so much of your time all throughout the season. We'll bring you back next week to talk playoffs. And then you and I discussed, once the NFL season's done, having a weekly NBA segment where we can talk each week about some of the teams, how they've been over the last week, maybe some players to look for in fantasy and DFS, and maybe preview some of the weekend games. So we'll be talking football the next few, and then when that's over, we'll transition right into NBA.
Sounds good, man. Looking forward to it.
Give us your plugs one more time. Where can we find you, social media and podcast?
You can find me at etoff21sports on Twitter and Instagram. My website, etoff21sports21, has all my betting tracking. I put out power rankings, fantasy football rankings, put out little blogs. Had one the other week where I listed my personal rankings of the job openings and the pros and cons of each NFL job opening.
Always great work from Erik. Thank you so much, buddy. Good luck this weekend. I'll be going back and forth with you.
Sounds good. Looking forward to it.
Erik, Etoft21 Sports. Make sure to give him a follow there on social media. Don't go anywhere, folks. We will be back with plenty more on That's What G Said. Big thanks to Erik. As you heard, we're going to be talking NFL the next couple weeks, and Erik will be joining me after the NFL season for a weekly NBA segment where we talk about what's been going on over the last week and preview everything coming up for each weekend. Before we move into horse racing, I want to talk about Cindy Carava at cindycarava.com, a full-service realtor. She's been one of the longtime sponsors of That's What G Said podcast, and if you ever need anything in the world of real estate, you got to get in touch with Cindy Carava. It's such a stressful event when you're moving, and she, being a full-service realtor, can help you in many different ways: selling, purchasing, leasing. She can help you find a vendor, handymen, painters, landscapers, gardeners that she personally uses in her own home. If you need help getting pre-approved for a loan, she can connect you with a lender that she works closely with and can highly recommend, covering all parts of the San Gabriel Valley, parts of North San Diego County, Del Mar, Solana Beach, Rancho Santa Fe. Maybe you're just curious to see how much your home is worth. She can do a free market analysis of your home's value. You can find information about her Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, reviews on Yelp and Zillow, or the website cindycarava.com. All of the contact information there. Make sure to let her know that Gino sent you. Moving along, and we are going to head to Saturday. We're going to talk some horse racing, and first up, it's going to be Gabe Vartanian. Gabe and I became buddies over the last couple of years, talking on social media, and Gabe is the creator of a group on Facebook called the Live and Breathe Horse Racing Group, which I'm a part of, and it's really cool. It's a group where if you're someone who is maybe new or you're just looking for to ask some questions in the world of horse racing, this is a great space for you. I think there's almost 5,000 people in the group now, and the part of the group that I really like that we talk about it with Gabe, there's no bullying, no insulting, none of that. Gabe's very good about keeping an eye on everything. That's what you have to agree to when you join the group. So it's a real safe space for questions. You can post selections and stuff and not worry about getting made fun of. You can learn. I'm learning from people there every day. So let's talk about the Live and Breathe Racing Group with Gabe, and we're also going to handicap Santa Anita races 8 and 9 for Saturday, the 2 stakes races at Santa Anita. So get those past performances out for January the 9th. We're going to talk some Santa Anita with Gabe. Next up is a first-time guest on That's What G Said podcast, someone I've become very close with over the last couple of years online, talking races on social media here and there, talking sports, someone who wagers on all sports and very good when it comes to horse racing. And he has a really cool group that he created on Facebook that we're going to talk about. We're also going to talk about Santa Anita on Saturday, a couple graded stakes races there, and we're going to get a best bet from Gabe Vartanian. Gabe, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good. How are you, my man?
Oh, great. Thanks for joining me. It's been a while. We've been talking about doing this for a while, and the beginning of the new year now at Santa Anita. I know you're someone who likes the SoCal races too. You bet all over, but it seems like Santa Anita going to the track is something that you love. Yeah. So I felt like Santa Anita would be the perfect time for us to link up. Give the folks out there a little background on you. How did you get into horse racing? Give us some of your history.
Well, it's pretty simple. My father owned horses even before I was even born. So my father was a horse owner, so I basically grew up at the track. Been going to the track my whole entire life. Even went to Caliente in Mexico when I was a child. Been to all the Southern California tracks, even the fairs when we had all the fairs up north going, and Fresno and all that. So I've been to all the tracks in California and basically just grew up on the track, grew up on horses. Watched my dad do his thing. My dad was a very good handicapper as well. He hit numerous pick sixes over $30,000. He was known at the track as one of the better handicappers, and I'm just trying to be half as good as he is.
That's right. It's for a lot of us, it's mom or dad or grandpa or someone, uncle that took us and that showed us. Same thing for me. It was my dad who helped me and who showed me the ropes. And so you've just become someone who is paying attention to racing all the time. You're watching tracks at all levels, from low-level stuff earlier in the week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, to the biggest, graded stakes races. And so what your interest in horse racing did is it got you over to Facebook to create a Facebook group. And a lot of people create Facebook groups and for whatever their specific interest is, for their topic that they want to discuss with a lot of their friends. But what I like a lot about this group, Gabe, and why I post the most in this group, and I'm the most active in there, and I love just the threads and following along, is it's a very, very positive, encouraging group. Horse racing can be a little overwhelming, especially for a new person, right?
Exactly.
Like numbers, all these things. Like when you open up the forum, and you lose once or twice, and somebody's calling you stupid online because you're posting something that's wrong. It's just not easy to start to learn and get into. This group is the most perfect place for learning, for fun
that's
interaction.
Why I started. That's why I started, because I had numerous newbies, people interested in horse racing, even come up to me in person, like in Vegas or in Reno or wherever I've traveled, because they see me at the track or they'll see me at the race book, and I'll be with my iPad with the form, so they kind of know I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So they'd come up to me, and I had numerous people tell me, I wanted to go on the chat room, but it looks so intimidating. You guys are always fighting and arguing with each other, and then I see new people that like they'll post a pic and it loses and everybody makes fun of them. So I was like, you know what, we need to start a new group on Facebook where there's zero tolerance for that. Absolutely zero tolerance. If you bash anybody, you make fun of anybody for losing a bet, you're gone. And it's not like we're trying to be, really strict on everything, but we need the newbies and people new to the game because we need to build on that. You know what I mean?
There's a critical conversation is one thing, right? There's help in saying, people are saying, oh, hey, this is what maybe you should do. Or, and what it does is it encourages people to ask more questions, because I love when I open up in the morning and there's somebody that says, hey, I'm playing over at this track today. Does anybody else playing there? Or, hey, I have a question about this particular horse or this. Does anyone know? And then there'll be a bunch of responses from people all over that have worked in racing, that have worn different hats in racing, that know for firsthand experience. And it was really refreshing to see that. And a lot of it comes down to you, honestly. Like, you do a really good job of monitoring that. And we're not saying that it's not everything is fluff, happy-go-lucky, positive all the time, right? If there's someone that gave a bad ride or something, we're going to talk about that. That's fine. But it's just a place where you as a handicapper don't have to feel like you don't have to feel embarrassed to post anything. You don't have to feel embarrassed to ask a question, or you don't have to feel stupid for anything, because there are no stupid questions, especially in a sport that's this difficult.
And even somebody like me who's experienced and been in this game my whole life, I even endured that in other groups, and I'm sure you have, and other people as well.
Yeah. And it's great. I love being someone, like, I've experienced horse racing in a more so coverage on TV, at TVG, Elite Racing Network, covering it for different places. Not as much as a horseman. I've been around the track and stuff. But so what I like is when people ask questions that I know I can answer. I can tell them things that I've experienced on TVG or when I've had to cover races. And then on the flip side, I love when there's questions that I have that are answered. Oh, I didn't know about this in the mornings and that workout, or this horse or that. It's so much, which is really, really great. And there's all these different people that just seem like they're all in the group for the same reason. They're there to help, and they're there to try to grow the sport, which is all what we want to do. We love the sport.
Exactly. And that's been my goal for as long as I could recall. I mean, whenever I'm at the racetrack, I try to be the best ambassador I can. I see people look, confused, and it's, think about it. I mean, it's a very confusing game. I mean, once you first get into it, it looks like Chinese language. There's so many. There's a whole vocabulary that you need to learn.
There's numbers. There's words. You see letters here, abbreviations. You don't know
what's that L. For Lasix. What's that G for gelding. There's just so many acronyms and just so many. There's so much to learn. And I always say, and this is my thought, I always say it really takes a good 4 years to learn horse racing if you're doing it consistently. It's similar to a college degree. It takes a good 4 years to really learn the sport.
There's aspects. You're going to start handicapping, and then you're going to learn about watching replays, watching workouts, visually stuff with horses, how they look when they come out on the track. And then you're going to look and learn about some of the numbers and the stats for you when you're looking at jockey trainer combos, or how certain trainers do on certain layoffs and this and that. It's a world to unlock, and it's very
science.
It is, and it's very overwhelming if you don't have the people around, like the people around you to help you. And a lot of us have, you had your dad, I had my dad and family members and my grandpa. And so, think about it, how difficult it would be to try to jump right into something without any sort of help or any background, or someone to sit there and not hold your hand, but help you along and answer the questions you have.
Yeah.
That's what Live and Breathe does. That's what this group does for you.
Exactly. And we have a lot of trainers, we have a lot of owners, we have a lot of people that are, inside the game that give very fruitful information as well. And I've learned a lot as well.
I do every day. Every day
I'm learning something new from a trainer and an owner. He's, mentioning this and that. So, and I'm just, another reason why Live and Breathe on Facebook, started was also because I just didn't want to. I was just tired of always fighting. Not that I was fighting, but I'm a person who, if somebody talks to me, I'm going to talk to them back. And just so many times people would talk to me, and be disrespectful, and then I'd end up being disrespectful back. And I was just, you know what? I would like a clean slate. Just start this group. Hopefully it takes off, and hopefully we could have an atmosphere where it's positive. The majority positive. You're never gonna have 100%.
No, but that's the goal. And when that's the goal, and everybody understands that going in, we're all there to help each other out, right? Yeah. We're on the same team here. We're playing against each other, but we're fans and we're customers, and we all want to win. We all want to do well. We all want to learn, and it's great. Like you, like I said, you'll learn specifics as far as, hey, who does everybody like in these races throughout the day, and then you're going to learn just general handicapping angles that you can take with you and use next week or next month or a year from now when you see that same situation come up. It's a great job, man. You do a really great job with it. And I'm a big fan of the group, and that, I mean, I wanted to bring you on to talk some racing, which we're going to talk Santa Anita in a second. But the reason why is because the group is just, it's especially nowadays in this climate, right? We've seen 2020 was crazy. 2021's already been crazy. We don't have to get into the specific,
and
but
you
it's
already
just
see that I remind everyone, please, let's not talk about politics.
There's no politics in the group.
Zero
there's
politics.
There's none, and there's not even really much of other sports stuff. You'll get some football, but it's horse racing, and it's horse racing for people that are playing every day at all levels and that are really into the game and that love it. And it's if that sounds like you definitely want to check out this group. So how do people out there that are listening, if they're interested in this group, how do they get involved?
Well, all they do is go onto Facebook, look up groups, type in Live and Breathe Horse Racing, and it should pop right up. On November 3rd of 2019, we had a race named after us.
Santa Anita, that was great, right?
Santa Anita, and Tis Magician, who's a really nice horse, ended up running second in that race. And he's having a good career.
Yep, he just came back and won the other day. Yeah.
He just came back and won the other day. And so all you have to do is just look up Live and Breathe, and then there's 3 questions we ask just to make sure you're not spam or a computer or something. And then we'll approve you, and you could talk to us and ask any question you'd like, or just be someone who's lurking around and
read
information that way.
Share any picks that you have with us. Share any of your insight with us. We'd love to hear from you. Friendships are made here, and different things. You never know who's watching. Like I said, I've seen some really sharp, smart people. I think I saw Paul Bovey start posting in there a few different times, and then him and I started interacting a lot, and I've had him on the shows talking football.
Yeah,
just
exactly.
Such a sharp dude, and it's just how things like that work.
Well, Paul Bovey's my friend first. So.
Yeah.
No, he was my friend first, not you.
He's a great
I love Paul Bovey. If you're listening
great
out there, Paul, I love you, man. You're my friend.
He's awesome.
He's a good dude. Real sharp.
It works. The group really works, folks. So make sure to give it a look there. And in a few minutes, there's going to be a contest that we're going to have for members of that group. So you have to be a member of that group before Saturday. If you're listening and you want to join in the next day or two, make sure to do that right away. And we're going to give you the details of that contest in a second. But right now, let's do a little handicapping. I asked Gabe to look at Santa Anita for Saturday. There are 2 graded stakes races that the fields are okay. They could be a little formful, but because of that, I also asked him to give me another best bet on the card somewhere throughout. So we'll start with the 2 stakes races, and then we'll get his other play following. So we've got the La Cañada, Gabe, in race number 8. If you're out there listening and you're following along with your past performances, we're looking at Santa Anita for Saturday, January the 9th. This is grade 3. They're going to be going 1 mile and a 16th there, fillies and mares, 4-year-olds and upwards. We have a couple horses who were really consistent and were really good in graded stakes races, and they faced each other over and over and over again last year. That's Hard Not to Love and Fighting Mad. Both of them are really quality. Fighting Mad got the better of Hard Not to Love when they faced each other a few times, but neither one of them has run since September, so a little bit of a layoff to deal with for both of those top 2.
Yeah. I would also like to mention that Hard Not to Love, I think, he likes Santa Anita more than Del Mar.
Yeah, no, that's a great point.
Yeah. And also, how about the jockey change to Gonzalez? That's an interesting jockey change because this horse is blind from one eye, has problems and so forth. So, and I know Mike Smith, would coax her along. I would watch it on TVG because she would have problems in the paddock and stuff, with anxiety and stuff. So it's interesting that this horse has a new jockey.
And and Gonzalez is what we've seen. We've seen some of the jocks from NoCal come down to SoCal. One that you and I have talked about in a big thread in the Live and Breathe group about Hernandez and how unbelievable.
Hernandez, how good is he?
He has been. Gonzalez has been excellent here. Even Cedillo and some of them who have sort of become the mainstays in this SoCal jockeys room. They've been excellent. So yeah, you get a hungry rider jumping aboard Hard Not to Love, and then you've got Fighting Mad, who is a little more speedy than Hard Not to Love. She's quick. She's quicker early, so she's going to probably be out front. There might be a little bit of other speed in here, though. So how do you
Message? I think Message
and maybe Miss Stormy D is pretty quick too. She's not as classy, but she's definitely pretty fast. Who do you look for, and how do you kind of see this race shaping up?
Well, with all the speed in this race, I was hoping that Hard Not to Love would maybe. I'm hoping, but you never know. You never know how jockeys and connections are gonna, what kind of plan they have. But I'm gonna try to go with Hard Not to Love on top because I think there's a jockey upgrade from Mike Smith to Gonzalez. I know people are going to be laughing at that, and we're not here to bash and all that. But I think Gonzalez is better than Mike Smith right now. And also, I think there's a lot of speed to go with Fighting Mad. Message, Cineas, Miss Stormy D, all of those. So my selection in here is Hard Not to Love on top. I think Hard Not to Love is going to win. I think Fighting Mad will battle and stay there for second. And then I think for third, Never Be Enough with Tiago will get up there and pass Tired Horses to run third.
You know what? I'm glad you mentioned her too, because she's a real wild card in here. She's done very little wrong throughout her career. I think we can make an easy excuse for the 2-back race and just say, okay, she didn't want to go that far, and
I threw that race out. Yeah,
and even because even the other 1.3 ace race just seemed, a little too far. And this is much more in her wheelhouse. It's just, is she going to take to the dirt? If she does, she definitely should be passing some Tired Horses, and I think I would be using her too in some spots. I agree with your assessment of preferring Hard Not to Love over Fighting Mad of those two, because I think Fighting Mad maybe softened up a little from some other speed. The horse who I might end up playing, I'll probably make my top selection in here, but I will use along with Hard Not to Love and maybe even Never Be Enough is Sanus. I'm hoping that she sits a little bit, and I'm thinking that she might be able to sit third if Miss Stormy D and if Fighting Mad end up going, maybe fourth if Message is right there in front of her, and then she could be a horse who sits behind them. Now, I'm not sure. I don't know if the plan is going to be to go, but she did sit pretty nicely last time off. When you go back and watch the race at Churchill, she was able to stalk, and she was a clear-cut second behind Finite. Finite came over and ran in the Malibu. Didn't break well, ended up finishing fourth, was okay, but Finite's a nice animal, so
still a nice horse.
Yeah, and so Sanus, I think, when you look at overall her form too, she's really only got 2 poor races. They were both going really long in Chile against the boys and in grade 1, group 1 situations. So if you excuse those two, she's pretty consistent. And this might be the time where she could beat Hard Not to Love and Fighting Mad if they're just a little bit short, maybe, because they haven't raced in a few months. And maybe there's a little other speed.
That's a good point.
Yeah, and maybe there's a little other speed in here. She's a horse with some current races and some current form. So Sanus,
I think your selection has some upside too.
Yeah,
4th career start in the country, probably getting more acclimated to America.
To McCarthy too. She seems like she's improving, which I like too. She stepped forward in each of her U.S. starts.
Her buyer figures went up 77, 83, 89.
So one more step forward. Probably doesn't put her too far out. Does she need to improve to get the better of the top couple in here? Sure, but I'm hoping that with the way I'm projecting her trip, she might be able to fall into a really good spot there. That's Sanus.
Yeah, I mean that's what you got to do if you're going to get money. You got to look at what's not obvious.
Exactly.
I'm picking obvious because you asked me this race and it looks like it's a chalky race.
I have Hard Not to Love second, and I completely agree. I think that she might be. You might be able to get just double the price, triple the price on Sanus, and to me that might be enough to take a little shot on her on top over Hard Not to Love, just getting a little more value.
Yeah, I would like to watch the tote on that. I want to see if she gets some
Agree.
action. That might mean she's dangerous.
Yep, absolutely. We moved from
and those workouts look good too.
I like plenty to like about Sinus there. So we move to the Las Ciénegas, race number 9, which is a 6 furlong turf sprint. We've got a new chute, not in this race, nothing about that, but we've got a sort of a new turf course that I think still has some things to be worked out. We'll talk about that another day. This one's just the regular 6 furlong turf course here, and it looks like there are 2 in particular that are going to take a lot of money. You have Jolie Olympica, who is just awesome. She's done so little wrong in her career.
Oh, I love her.
She's raced 7 times. She's got 5 wins and 2 seconds. She's never been worse than second, and those were losses to get to really nice horses. You've got Alexandra, who was only 6-1 in the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint. She won a Grade 1 a couple starts back. And then you have an up-and-coming horse like Lighthouse, who will probably also take a little bit of money there. It feels like those are kind of the 3 I think you have to start with, at least from a conversation point in this race.
Yeah, who was the other one you mentioned?
Lighthouse? Yeah.
Yeah, those are the 3. That looks like the trifecta there. I'm such a fan of Julia Olympica. She's such a monster and all that. I mean, Alexandra's good too. She beat the boys 2 back in the Jaipur. I mean, she's a monster. To be honest, I think, this is one of those races where these girls are so competitive and so good that they might be a photo finish. I wouldn't be surprised if it was a photo finish. Would you, Gina?
No, these are a couple really nice animals here.
And Hard Knocker's consistent.
They always show up, and
so we might have a photo finish here.
And what's great,
jockey's race.
You get, what's funny with the 3 of them, even including Lighthouse in the mix, you get like this up and comer to knock heads with a couple horses who have been here now, sort of around this level for the last year or so. I think this is a very fun turf sprint. So it sounds like you're slightly leaning towards Jolie Olympica
because of the speed. I think she's going to have the head jump start on her, and I think turning into the stretch, she'll probably have about a 2-length lead, and then Alexandra will be coming with Rosario, and I think Jolie will have enough. If you look at Jolie, she's done her best work in those sprints, 5.5. Both times she ran 5.5, she won, and I think maybe a mile is a little too long for her.
I agree.
Even though bred by Drosselmeyer, that shouldn't be a problem, but she got beat the time that she won a mile and a 16th. I mean, although it was good horses. I just think sprinting, she's going to be very tough. I think sprinting, even though Alexandra's, she's a dead sprinter, but I think Jolie as sprinting is almost unbeatable.
And I like the draw for her too in the outside because she can go, but let's say like acting out or somebody wants to get really aggressive, she'll just sit right off of them. She can't, like she's shown. She'll just sit right behind them, just and she can be completely fine doing it. So that outside draw gives her some options. I prefer Jolie to Alexandra for almost all the reasons that you said too. I think she's going to get a jump, and if Lighthouse, I would want a little bit better price. That's the thing, is I really like her. I do a lot. I would want like 3-1, 7-2, and she probably will be more like 5-2. I think the 3 of them are going to take money. I think Jolie will take the most money, and then Alexandra, and then Lighthouse in that order. But if she were to like a little bit better price, I would be.
You might get that. I think you might get that.
And maybe if we do, so yeah, if we get like 7-2, I might lean. Like I would be using her and Jolie if I had to pick 2 of the 3 here, because I think they will have an opportunity to sit a little bit closer in this small field. They're just a little more tactical than Alexandra, who sort of has to play that I'm going to take way back and come running late.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, Jolie's going to have that lead turning in the stretch, I believe. And I just think that that's probably all she wrote. I think she's going to hold off Alexandra. But I would not be surprised if there's a photo finish. But, you mentioning that you like Lighthouse, you got me looking now. So now I'm going to be looking at Lighthouse a little more closely.
Yeah, I think she's got some versatility, and the race at Kentucky was really good, where she sat just off. Mm-hmm. She showed a couple starts back that she can come from way out of it and also compete with older in that spot too. And she's done like nothing wrong. The only really poor race that she had was going long, and we can make an excuse for that because she's not going long today. So I just think she's continuing to be on the upswing. And another like same sort of thing I was going for with Sinus. If a better price than the two shorter, like double the price of them. And I know she's got to improve, but that's sort of built into the price, right? If she's a better price, she does have to improve, and I'm expecting that. So yeah, not like fields of 12 or anything like necessarily we had on opening day, but some strong horses that we have in these
They're quality fields. They're
Yep.
quality fields. They might be short fields, but they're quality fields, graded stakes caliber horses.
They are.
Yeah.
It's not like an allowance race that's pretending to be, and it's a graded stakes race. This is not the case. These are legitimate graded stakes animals. So, Gabe, I also asked you if you had another play on the card. Is there anything that you like somewhere else on the Saturday card?
Yeah, I got two plays for you, but I'm going to give you one, or I'm going to go a little deeper than the other. Race 6, I like number 7, The Loot Is Mine. When Peter Miller and Flavian Pratt get together, they win at 32%. 42% this year. And first time Lasix, Peter Miller barn is on fire. There's 3 workouts since the last race and going to be forwardly placed. I like the blinkers off. The Loot Is Mine is my best bet. Race 6, number 7, The Loot Is Mine with Pratt. And if you see Peter Miller hits 25% with blinkers off, just everything look, and I feel like the field, there's nothing else in the field that's really...
Nothing scares you. There's no monsters here. No,
there's no monsters
a good spot
in the race. There's nothing. I see 3-1 morning line. I doubt I'll get that, but if you could single this horse in a pick 4, pick 5,
yep,
you can make some good money. So
absolutely, The Loot Is Mine.
Pick
that is
5,
race.
Actually.
Yeah, start of the late pick 5 right here. You could single, you pick 3 he's got going on, put a horse on top in an exacta or try if you like. That is The Loot Is Mine in race number 6. And you said you got one more?
One more. Race number 7, number 6, Airman with Rispoli. I've heard that this sheriff's horse has a lot of talent. And sometimes, with these sheriff's horses, they need a few races to acclimate.
Yep.
And to get there. And I think this horse, I looked at the replays, this horse looks like he has a lot of talent. So I'm going to go with Airman, number 6 in race 7 with Rispoli and Sheriffs. And those are 2 horses to start your pick 5 with.
Perfect. Airman, the number 6. I like it quite a bit. So from Gabe, you got some thoughts on race 6, race 7, race 8, and race 9 all in a row. So Gabe, before we let you go, we want to let everybody know about the contest that we're going to be doing for Live and Breathe Horse Racing Group. So Here are the details for the contest. You have to be a member of the Live and Breathe Horse Racing Group on Facebook. So if you're not, make sure to go do it right now. There will be a post on Friday that will say, this is for the That's What G Said podcast contest. Mm-hmm. And then Gabe will post his selections in the 8th race, in the 9th race, and then his best bet. That's what the contest is. You have to give me your top pick in the 8th, your top pick in the 9th, and then a best bet anywhere else on the card that you want. Any other race on Santa Anita's card on Saturday. So that your post should have a horse in the 8th, a horse in the 9th, and then anywhere else you want on the card, 1 horse in each race. We're going to be basing this contest off of $2 win ROI there, and we'll add them all up. So if you have 3 winners, they were $10, $12, and $20. You're going to get all 3 of them. If you have 1, we're just going to do that. And we are going to give out prizes to the top 3 finishers. Now, in case of a tiebreaker, I ask that in your post, you also post a little tiebreaker that says the top 3 finishers in order of the trifecta for race 8. So give me your order. If it's 5, 4, 2, however it is, that's the tiebreaker. So every post should say race 8 selection, race 9 selection, best bet, and then tiebreaker, what's the try for race number 8. That's how you enter. You have to have that post in the Facebook group. And the prizes, Gabe, that we've got for you. Whoever wins, $50 win bet on any horse they want starting on Sunday. It can be Sunday. It can be during the middle of the week. It can be next week. Whoever it is, I'm going to make the win wager for you. If it wins, I'll send you all your money, PayPal, Venmo,
is that
whatever.
50 or 15?
50, 50. A
$50. Wow.
A $50 win wager. Anyone you want, any day, starting on Sunday. So that's the first prize. You could turn that 50 into 500. You could turn that 50, anything you want, 50 to win anywhere. Second prize, I think people have seen some of these floating around. You can purchase one at StableDuel.com, the Degenerate t-shirt. Those are great. We're all degenerates. So what I will do is whoever finishes second, I'll be in touch with you. We'll get your size and where you want the shirt sent to, and I'll make sure that shirt is sent to you, the Degenerate t-shirt. And then the third prize is at sarahcandles.com, one of the sponsors of this show. They have all natural soy wax candles. They even have a candle that's called Del Mar. Tyler is a horse racing fan too. He's the one that created the company. So the third place finisher can get a candle, any choice of any of the 30 different scents that they have. I'll be in touch with you. You can pick whatever scent you want. I'll have it sent there to you. So
do they have a scent for Los Alamitos?
I was going to say it's not, and Del Mar is not like burned tickets and ripped up tickets. That's not the scent of it. It's a good scent. So we got.
Oh, Del Mar smells great.
Oh yeah. So we got 3 prizes for you: a $50 win wager for the winner, a Degenerate t-shirt for the runner-up, and a candle of your choice, any scent that you want, from sarahcandles.com. So Gabe, I appreciate you coming on with me, and thank you for doing this contest along with me. You and I are going to be talking over the next couple days. We're going to be posting in the group, and we're going to have a lot of fun seeing who is going to be able to win and finish in the top 3 spots in this contest.
I can't wait, man. Thank you so much for having me on.
Gabe Vartanian, you heard all the ways you can get in touch with the Live and Breathe Horse Racing group on Facebook, and we hope you get involved in this contest. We are going to take a quick break. I'm going to recap a little more of Santa Anita, and don't go anywhere, folks. We got plenty more on That's What G Said. Horse racing fans, many of us have been using the DRF, the daily racing form, for years, studying the races, keeping up to date on news with all the articles. I remember looking for a copy at the local liquor store or picking one up at the local racetrack wherever I was going. Now it's even easier and cheaper than ever to use DRF with DRF.com and the newly optimized DRF Mobile. You can get all the tracks that you want to bet and handicap. Past performances that are mobile optimized for on-the-go handicapping on your phone. So you go to DRF.com from your mobile device, no additional cost. Tap the calendar icon on the top left. It opens all of the options for past performances and for the tools that are available. One click to bet now on DRF bets. Get real-time odds and scratches on race day. You can tap on any horse, and you get those same DRF past performances that you're familiar with a larger font for your mobile display. One click to Formulator for charts, for replays if you get the Formulator version, and even on the classic past performances, you get the home screen with horses, with odds, with buyers. You get a lifetime buyer speed figure graph. You can rotate your phone for the best view, and any horse that you click on, you'll see the running lines. You can easily move from horse to horse. The same data as those traditional classic DRF past performances. You get an interactive format, which is very similar to the DRF Classic version that you're used to on the desktop. Every card includes live data updated instantly with those scratches, and so you get the accessibility from desktop to phone, cross-device functionality. You can take your notes and save them from one device to the next, and then access your account on any of your devices. On-the-go handicapping and wagering, multiple formats to view. You got the overview page with recent speed figures, current day's odds, easy access to expert selections and analysis. You got the buyer speed figure graph with lifetime buyer speed figures and chart notes for every horse. And you got those traditional DRF past performances that are just newly optimized for your mobile phones. They are constantly upgrading, improving, and making everything easier for you to get your handicapping done at DRF.com. Great stuff from Gabe, and if you want to get involved in that contest, make sure you got to go to the Live and Breathe Horse Racing group on Facebook. You got to be a member of the group, and you will be able to post and get involved in that contest. Just to repeat one more time, you got to give us one horse in race number 8, one horse in race number 9, one horse in any other race, and then for the tiebreaker, pick the trifecta in order of race number 8. Give us your top 3 finishers in that race. It's going to be a contest where there are prizes for the top 3 finishers. First prize, a $50 win wager on any horse you want. Starting on Sunday, you can make a wager on Sunday or any time following that. Second place gets the Degenerate t-shirt from Stable Duel. Third place, you'll get a candle of your choice from sarahcandles.com. So it'll be a total ROI on your 3 horses total with a $2 win payout ROI. Fun free contest, but you got to be a member of that Live and Breathe Racing group on Facebook. Now we're going to get over to Sam Houston. It is a mandatory pick 6 payout on Saturday, just day 2 of the meet. Andy Villanueva, who does a lot of handicapping over at Sam Houston for them and has a couple new ventures that we discuss. He's going to join me. We kick things off in race number 5. We hit 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 on a mandatory pick 6 payout at Sam Houston on Saturday night. Very excited to welcome back to That's What G Said podcast to talk a little Sam Houston racing for Saturday. Friend of the show. We've had him on here to talk racing with us many times. And this is a track that Andy does a really, really great job handicapping. In particular, a track that we really love. Welcoming in Andy Villanueva. We're going to be talking about Sam Houston. Andy, how you doing, buddy?
Good. How are you?
Man, I'm anytime Sam Houston's back running, I'm great because for someone, like you and I, we play a lot of races. You watch a lot of races and you play a lot almost daily. I'm always watching, always playing. So you're betting a lot. Takeout is a big deal. A lot of people, it's something that we didn't realize as much years ago. But when you play the wagers you play at Sam Houston and you can play a 12% double pick 3, pick 4, pick 5, and then you compare it to those same wagers at other tracks, it's incredible how much more money you make at Sam Houston. I always feel good before I even make a bet. I don't feel like I'm being robbed.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. We bet. I mean, how can I put this? It's easy to talk about takeout and not understand it if you're just a normal bettor, but someone like yourself or myself who play on a daily basis, we always need that extra edge, and this place does it. I mean, you're already going in knowing that you win. An additional 7.5 to 8% on top of whatever you win on a normal basis is a plus.
And it's not just what's great is like for a lot of players, most tracks, it's the pick 5. That's the low takeout wager. And that's fun. And I'm playing a lot of those. But if you're someone who's got a smaller bankroll and you're playing with limited funds, it's hard to want to play a pick 5. It's hard to say, okay, if I wanted to play my best bet that's going to give me the most money back, it's the hardest one to hit. It's a pick 5. That's not the case here. I feel like I play so many more doubles and pick 3s and even pick 4s at this track than I do at any other tracks, because they're all those low takeout. They just said, hey, you know what? We're going to make that our thing, like all of the rolling exotics. And then what they're doing with the pick 6 too, Andy, last year when the meet ended, they had a real unfortunate on the final day when it was going to be a mandatory payout in the pick 6. They had an issue with the lights, and they couldn't run the rest of the races. So what do? They carry the money right back over, and it's carried over into Friday, and they're going to have a mandatory payout on the card that we're talking about on Saturday. And then next week, they're going to change it to a 50-cent pick 6, no jackpot with 12% takeout. So they just seem to keep doing the right thing there.
Yeah, I mean, the one good thing about Sam Houston is that they listen to their fan base and the people that play on a daily basis. And, I think it's one of those things to where you have to get on board. I mean, you can't not get on board.
It's refreshing. We complain so much about the opposite sides of things in racing that when there's a track that's actually doing what we want, I'm going to go all in and give them all the support we have. And Andy's actually got a nice project that he's working on now and some cool new things we're going to talk about after the races. So we'll plug those after in a bit, Andy. But now we're going to get into Sam Houston for Saturday. So get your past performances out for January the 9th. We're looking at race number 5. That's the start of that Space City Pick 6 that will be the mandatory payout on the final format of that jackpot Pick 6. And starting next week, it'll be the traditional with the 12% and a 50% base, I believe. So we got 25 non-2s here to kick things off, going a mile and a 16th. A couple of the horses that I'm taking a look at. I actually thought there was an interesting price towards the outside. Sunrise Kitten, whose turf form is just a little sneakier than it looks, coming out of a first level allowance at Remington. Prior to that, was racing at Kentucky, some races down at Fairgrounds. So the overall form overall. You don't have you have some races here or there that weren't that great, but they were against tougher company and better. This is one that I'm probably going to be throwing in my exotics. Who are some of the horses that you're looking at in here, Andy?
Well, the one thing we can say is there is a rider change in one of the races. This race.
We talked about it a little bit on the Friday show with the CJ McMahon situation. So we addressed that.
Relu Gutierrez is on that horse for Michael Stidham, Brock's Rumble. We just found that out today. But before even the change was even made, I thought this horse was the one to beat off the top is Brock's Rumble. You're going from Tampa turf racing to here. I think you're going to get horses like Asmussen's getting a little play, but I'm really on top of this horse here for a couple reasons. One, first time gelding. Michael Stidham rarely brings horses out here, and this horse is a $150,000 purchase. They're looking for a spot for him. They continuously drop him down, and this might be the softest spot he can land at this place, and he's going to be tough.
I think he's a must-use. I think he's a must-use. Super logical, lightly raced, gets away from the same horse who beat him the last couple times, and he just feels like a real major contender in here. There's a lot to like about him. He's got that nice running style with a couple horses down towards the inside that'll probably show some speed. The Radiant Kitten next to him's got a little bit of speed too. It looks like there's enough to where he's probably going to be sitting third or fourth and get a really good trip in here.
Yeah, the good thing about the turf courses is it really doesn't matter where you're put as long as you get out when you need to get out, which is usually in the turn. And this horse will just be sitting right off of that pace. I mean, he's even enough that he can do that, which is a good thing.
So other horse or two. I mean, the one Bourbon Wisdom is.
I'm not a big fan of his. Couple reasons. One, he's stepping up in class. He should have won the Delta Downs race on the 23rd of December. He didn't do it. This is a bit tougher. Yes, he's getting back on turf. Yes, it's where he finally won. But you know what? He's had so many opportunities to win when he was a maiden and he didn't do it. And I just think there's better value elsewhere. And I don't want to be with everybody else and have the favorite win the first leg of a pick six. I'd rather.
I'm in the third spot. I agree with you. I much prefer the 6. Like if we're talking about who are going to be, I think some of the shorter prices in here, I would much prefer the 6 over the 1. And honestly, even like just some of how the race is going to set up for the 1, he's going to be down inside. There's a couple others with some speed in here. If he could settle a little behind him, but I got a feeling he might be getting caught up a little too much in the pace, exiting some of those 7 furlong races. So yeah, I had him in third. I had 9, 6, 1. If you're looking for a bust out long shot or maybe a horse to use underneath in some of your exotics, I thought the 3 Yip Yip Kip had an opportunity. You could just put a line through the last effort and look at some of those grass races. They're a little cheap, a little soft, but what I do like is he actually competed against maiden special weights. And if you're just playing off of numbers and figures, like that October race against maiden special weight, or the September race against maiden special weights at Remington when finishing third, that would be pretty competitive with a lot of this group. I could absolutely see him underneath hitting a slice, or maybe if you want to throw in a big long shot in one of your wagers here, Kip.
And I actually agree with you, but I mean, I also think that Ronnie Craven's horse, Radiant Kitten, the number 5 horse, is definitely one of those horses that could quietly do it. Just toss out that last race at Remington Park. He doesn't want anything to do with a sprint. He's a route horse, and his best races have been there. His numbers suggest that he fits in this spot. Not to me that's another one of those horses. You're going to get 12 to 1. You might as well use them.
Yeah.
If you're going to go deep in this race.
Let's move to race number 6, which is second leg of the pick 6, and it's the start of the pick 5. We'll have 3-year-olds which have never won 2 races, optional 50s on 2, claiming price of 50, 5.5 furlongs, the distance in here. So some of the horses that'll take money. I think Ultimate is obviously the morning line favorite here, because just on, he's coming in from Churchill Downs. He raced against pretty good company at Churchill, and most recently it was a really tough race actually, but he really seems like he's going to get a good setup in here. There's a good amount of speed drawn towards his inside. You got Tap to the Max, Texas Titan shown speed. You'd imagine that Lucky Promise isn't going to be too far. Bobby Brinkley might have to go from the rail even to the outside. I'm Money and Carbon Striker, they want to be close. So there could be a scenario where they all line up and this one just gets a great trip from middle to the back of the pack.
Yeah, I mean, I was looking at this race and I was like, it looks like Ultimate is the class of the field just based on where he's coming from. I can't decline the fact that Bobby Brinkley's coming out of a stakes race. He's taking a class drop. The second place horse, Red and Wild, came back to win a race.
And then finished third in the Springboard Mile. Yeah,
exactly.
So that was a really nice animal.
So there's that going for him. Austin Gustafson has had such a strong meet or a strong year last year that, he points for this meet. He usually has his horses ready to fire. I just think that horse just likes to finish third. No offense to Lindy, but I honestly think that if you're going to go in this race, you could go too deep and be okay. I think you'd take Bobby Brinkley. I think you do have to take the Steve Asmussen Ultimate. As far as the pick six is concerned, those two are the two horses I would probably kind of look at, for the pick five or the pick four, if they're having a pick five this late, which I don't think. Yeah, they are actually.
Yeah, this is where it starts. Yep.
So I would actually not be afraid to throw in Tap to the Max because, he's going to go to the front.
If anybody clears, it's probably him.
Exactly. He's definitely got that early speed. I'm gonna wait to see what the computer models say, kind of, to see if he's gonna be a high Q on this, and if he is, I may end up having to use him.
You mentioned the two, Lucky Promise. Yeah, I mean, he fits with them. He's right there. But like you said, it's hard. Like, he had a little bit of trouble on October the 10th, and he's actually beaten Bobby Brinkley before. He wouldn't be shocked to see him win. I just sort of like others a little bit more. I guess if you're looking for a long shot in here, one for me would be Too Bad So Sad, just because he won pretty nicely. His number was a little low, but it was back in August for a very capable barn. He actually beat Tap to the Max. So maybe there's just some upside with him that we don't quite know about that's untapped there because he's just made his one career start. So race number 6, start of the late pick 5 there at Sam Houston. Let's move to race 7, Andy. We're going to talk about the late pick 4 here. We got maiden special weights to begin. On paper, it would look like this is just a 2-horse race. Do you see it that way with inside, outside? Do you need to go deeper? How does this shape up to you?
A, they're maidens. So
right.
Just on that alone, I don't take much credence. B, I always look at it this way. Especially like at these tracks like Sam Houston, Remington Park, Delta Downs, when you get a $300,000 purchase making their debut, I'm going to question it.
Yeah, you're right.
I don't care who it is. And the fact that it's a Stone Street horse is a big question. The Dam ended up winning it on her debut over at Remington Park. But, I mean, she wasn't.
Yeah, she won a small stakes at Zia. I know what you mean. It's not a monster pedigree here.
Yeah, so the question is why did they spend $300,000 on her?
Yeah,
right. I mean, that's kind of the question on it.
And then you got the Tab is a little spotty too. You got to work on November, and keep in mind, like, we don't know with the way moving around, and nowadays in the COVID era, sometimes works get missed here and there or whatever. But
just know, as far as this is concerned, right? I mean, you can look at, like, I look at this Tab, and I'm going back all the way to like the summertime. There's that big break in between. That doesn't mean that horse wasn't training, because it's quite possible with the shift to Louisiana and all that down south that Asmussen had this horse at the farm and he was training him at the track at his farm in Texas. So I don't take much credence in this Asmussen spotty works, because I know he does have a habit of moving his horses to the farm to work sometimes just to do that.
So not as high on Bear Brian, the big purchase first time starters. Does that mean you do gravitate towards Vegas guy to the inside?
No. I mean, would I use them on a pick 4 and a pick 5 to stay alive? Yes, but I'm not going to be like, oh, I need to go and bet the house on it, right?
Sure.
I mean, there's other horses in here. I'll tell you one horse that really intrigues me, just based off of what I see off of pedigree, and that's the Todd Fincher trained Burns the Boss, the 3 horse. The dam won at first asking and I remember this dam. This dam ran at Hollywood Park. So she's got some base to her, obviously. The half Mucho Amor ended up winning first out as well. And so, win early pedigree, Street Boss, you can't go wrong because, it's a nicely bred sire. I just think that this horse might actually not get a lot of play, and you're going to get a price on him.
Yeah, it's funny. I prefer him to the outside first-time starter. I like him the most of the first-time starters, no doubt. I sort of feel the same way with Vegas guy with you. Is like I don't like defensively using a favorite, but to me, it's just he really does fit well. It's you're just sort of looking at this race like he ran his awful race and just using a figure that was as good as the race as anyone's run on their best days. So he could probably show up and just sort of plod around. And if a horse like the 3 or the 8, if the first time starters aren't good, he'll probably win this race. That's sort of why I have a tough time completely dismissing him. I feel the same with you though. I'm okay with not using the Bear Brian. I think of the other horses that have run, Tis Truculent would probably just be, the other one to maybe throw on the ticket for me if you're going to show some speed in between horses, tried to battle on. Now you're going to get a cutback. He'll probably be coming from off the pace a little bit in here. So he could be just passing some horses late. If for some reason Vegas guy tries to send because he's down inside, he got caught up in the pace last time out. So, it maybe be him, but I kind of agree with you. I thought, to me, one of the more interesting horses in this race, like the one that feels like the one that you could bet at 4 or 5 to 1 would be Burns as the Boss.
Yeah, exactly. And, he's a bomb. He's going to go to the front as well. That's why I kind of not a big fan of Tis Truculent. But, the one good thing is that Sophie probably is a little more patient.
Yeah.
So she might just take back a little bit and just wait to see what happens. It all depends on what Burns the Boss does, because if he's got early speed, and I'll go back and look at the OBS sale work and see, whether or not he shows a lot of good turn of foot. But I haven't. Mea complete on this. I have not done that yet. But just based on pedigree, I gotta give him a look.
We are talking race number 7. I couldn't really make too much of a case for New Dice, who's, going to be stepping up, but that does come in from Churchill. So sometimes it's more of a lateral move, but he's still going to need to improve in here. You mentioned he's a bomb. I couldn't really get too excited about Toe Tap and Luke or Texan Boy in this spot. So I think we hit most of the logicals and even 1 or 2 of the outside the boxes in race number 7. Let's move to the 8th race, late pick 3 time. In race number 8, we have optional 25s in here, and I will probably slightly lean towards Skyride in here. He tried the grass last time out. I don't think we really have to use that as a gauge. Let's look at the dirt race 2 starts back sprinting at Remington. He's had a brutal start. He completely missed the break. He was last. He was 10 off. And then he flew late to just miss 3rd. And if you notice in his starts prior to that, he's got a lot more tactical speed. Or middle to the back of the pack. He doesn't have to be dead last like he was there. I think he probably gets a nice trip in here. JC's Nightcap's going to go. Verrazano First is going to go. Probably 1 or 2 others with intentions on the front end here for doing some of their best running. So I think he gets a nice trip. Who are some of the horses you look at in here, Andy?
I'm actually really intrigued by Gold Crusher on the outside with Lane Leslie. I think Lane is going to fit this horse because Lane likes to be on the outside a lot of times. So he's going to make that. Plus also that stakes race is better than looked.
Mm-hmm.
He had trouble. He's cutting back in distance. He's an open company, which isn't. I mean, yeah, he's a Washington bred, but that turf, that dirt course over at Emerald Downs tends to play to speed a little bit, and this truck doesn't. So I think he's gonna sit in a good spot, sitting off of the pace and looking to make a run on him. You can't throw out impact player on the drop. He won,
and he did have
Indiana
legit
Grand.
trouble last time out. Yeah.
He did. You just throw. You have to throw that race out.
Yep.
And then the race he wins, the third place finisher comes back to win next out. So, he's definitely positive for the distance. It's a horse you're going to want to use in your exotics. But Gold Crusher for me seems to be the horse that kind of intrigues me, and I like to see where they're going to be playing him as far as like money wise, what type of odds he's going to get near the start of the race, and if they're hammering him, he's going to be live.
Verrazano first is the Broberg on the claim back, and he has a lot of speed. What's nice is that he actually does have a race or two where he can sit off a little bit. So just to know that they have the option of sitting, I just don't know if that's going to necessarily work out the best in here. And at a really, really short price, he would be one that I'm using, but I don't love, along with a few others. JC's Nightcap is really quick too, so that's the problem. I feel like just right next door, they're going to be going head and head against each other. For me, one of the longer shots that I would maybe throw into a pick four situation somewhere would be the 2 Westfest, who has just not been running well at all as of late. But you're going to cut back to 6 furlongs. He comes out of a lot of better races, and he's the type of horse who I like throwing into tickets at 10-1 or above, because he's not consistent. He's probably not a horse who I'd even want to bet to win, but if he jumps up, it would not be a surprise, because he has races that are good enough to beat a group like this. They haven't been for a while. I don't know if there's any of that left, but at least I'll be getting 10 to 15-1 to throw him in and see. So that was another one for me. Any other horses to mention for you in the 8th, Andy?
No, because I was actually looking at Westfest and then saw that he hadn't won in a while. And then now that you talked about it, I just looked over and saw the Oaklawn Park race on the 20th of February. And I'm like, that's a tough group right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Mojo Man's a stakes winner. Manny was a sprinter. Operation Stevie gives you everything he gives you when he runs.
Even the grass race at Remington after that, that's not an easy group with Prospector Fever, and that's a solid group. So I think he just comes out of better races. And if he's the type of horse who, if he was like 5-1, I wouldn't want to play him. But if he's 10 or 15, I'd love throwing him into a pick 4 ticket, because he can win. He's just not. We don't know if he has it left, and he's just not consistent. So that's what's built into his price there. Yeah. Late double time as we move to race number 9. We've got 4-year-olds and up, which have started for a claiming price of $5,000 or less in 2021, or a claiming price of $10,000, 5.5 furlongs. The distance in here. Who are some of the horses you want to start with, Andy?
I liked Onomatopoeia.
Onomatopoeia, baby, yeah.
This horse always runs. He runs his race. I mean, I have yet to see him run a bad race. Clinton Stewart can win races. He puts him in the right spot, and I think Raylu's gonna have a huge meet here.
I do too.
I feel it.
It's wide open for the taking for someone. No Deshaun Parker, no Cabrera. We know CJ McMahon won't be around at least for a while with everything going on right now. So those are some jocks that were getting legitimate top mounts that are there for the taking now.
But, Stewart's got all of Steve Asmussen's horses. So,
So that locks that one up. But the rest are around for, like, if Raylu has a good couple weeks to start, he's going to be like that new face that people want to put on their horses. Yeah,
exactly. And Sophie's in that same boat too.
Completely agree.
Where, I really like Stewart's horse. I think Asmussen's horse right next to him going synthetic to dirt is a pretty good, impressive one, especially since it's first off the claim.
It's a good move, right? Like, this was a horse who faced a lot tougher. They drop in for 5, he wins, and now you can protect him and step back up. So this is a a horse who they like a little bit. And it was, I mean, look at some of the horses he faced. Tap It to Win, Sonneman, Grade 2 winner, Modernist, Kingmeister came back to win, Cajun Brother, even Skull Factor, who was a nice one. I have those two. For me, I had 2, 3 sort of on top of everyone else. I hate to be chalky, but this wasn't as much of an outside of the box race for me. I thought those two would be really tough.
Now, the only one I would actually kind of teeter to see where they're going with, maybe Boston Repo for Broberg. Only reason is he's a lot of people don't realize how tough those starter allowance races are at Delta Downs, and I want to picture Half Moon Reef. Those are 2 tough horses, and to try to go head and head with them at that deep track probably isn't the best place to do it. You throw that race out, he was pretty solid, and you got to give him a look at 10-1. You just got to.
From the inside, Coco Tiger, I would like if there wasn't as much speed signed on in here. You just mentioned a really quick horse, Boston Repo. Get a load of this is fast. Can't imagine that Royal Reality is going to be too far out of it. Minor Heat to the outseat. Yeah, so that's like underneath. Coco Tiger intrigues me as a horse in this spot. I just don't know with the trip that if she'll get it, but from the rail, maybe flashing a little speed and being able to stick in there and hold on for a slice. But it does feel like Onomatopoeia is going to get a great setup in here, with some pace to chase, super, super honest. And I like what they've done with Onward. Seems like he's very well spotted in here. Bourbon Bourbon Cowboy would be the other like logical one to mention. I just don't quite like him as much as the others, but I wouldn't really talk you off of using him. I just think the 2 and 3 are going to be pretty tough in here.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree on that.
Let's close things out, Andy, in race number 10 on Saturday over at Sam Houston with the Cowbreds, Texas breds. I'm in California, so I see a state bred, and I think I'm so self-absorbed. I'm always thinking California, Andy. Texas bred maidens, fillies, and mares.
Hey, if it means anything to you, sometimes I'll look at it and I'll be like, oh, okay, so which one are we looking at? Louisiana, Texas?
Yeah.
Which one is it?
Exactly.
I get confused.
Yeah. This is a race where I guess Catch the Devil has some of the better races, and she's coming out of some open races where she was really competitive. Those were going longer on the turf, though. This is cutting back to the dirt and sprinting, where she's run fine, even here at Sam Houston. I don't really have any knocks on Catch the Devil. She's just kind of one, I guess, to start the conversation with. Who are some that you're looking at?
So, Catch the Devil has burned me more times than I really like to admit. I can go back and look at it and go, well, she should have won on February 7th. That's no doubt. She was the only speed in the race, and she still got caught. She got beat by Take Charge Woman, who's a nice filly, at Lone Star Park. I don't trust her. I just don't. And she's going to be such a short price. It's not worth it. I like My Golden Bling.
Yep.
She's improving each start. She's going to get back on the dirt. She doesn't need the lead.
But she's probably the fastest. She doesn't need it, but she's probably the quickest. I just don't even think the horses to the inside are as quick as her.
It all depends on what Raylu does with her. That's the thing. I mean, you look at how she starts. Yeah, she's usually in front, but she usually stops too. So I don't know if Raylu's going to want to send her. That's my biggest question. The other horse I'm kind of looking at, and it's just purely based on the fact that it's Danny Pish, is Turnin' and Burnin'. First-time starter, been training at Rotama. Barn does really well first time out, and they know how to get them, not only to get them fit, but to have their mind right for being a first-time start. It's not that easy to get these horses to run first out.
No, it's much different than what you're doing in the mornings. The horse for me that I would look towards, I completely agree with you. I have My Golden Bling as my top selection. And I think My Golden Bling you have to use all over. The one of the bigger prices that I would probably throw in, pick 4s, pick 5s, maybe even a pick 6, is the number 6, Jan's Tap and Go. And it's mainly because once we get past Catch the Devil and My Golden Bling, who we just talked about, we have some first-time starters with question marks. We have some horses that don't have very good form at all. And at least with Jan's Tap and Go, I like the races that she comes out of. Brightest wasn't bad. That was an Asmussen horse. And No Moss Tequila, that was actually a really live race where they've had two next out winners. That's the Broberg who got the lead that day, and then he came right back to win again in his next start.
Yeah, a week later.
Yep, she was just a step slow. She quickly recovered. She moved from last up to fifth. It was like a nice 3-deep middle move, and then she got a little bit tired. She was chasing lone speed, and she backed up. So of all the other horses, like other than the ones that we talked about, I think Catch the Devil is going to be there. Probably, hopefully, second and third for our case with My Golden Bling winning. And you take those two out of the race. Jan's Tap and Go to me looked like maybe the next one of those who have raced. I like what the race she comes out of, and I do think the race is a little bit better than it looks on paper with the really low figure. So, any other ones to mention here?
Yeah, the only knock I give Jan's Tap and Go is the fact that she's never broken right. I mean, every single time she raced, and in a spot like this, mm-hmm. So I mean, but again, you know what? If this was like February 28th and she was running, I would probably endorse her big time because of the race she comes out of. But JR points for this meet, but he usually doesn't have them fit first time.
He's a racer too.
I would wait second time out with her just because it's JR.
Yep. And for me, I think it's somewhat more of an indictment on the rest of the field that I just don't think there's much else in here besides those few that we talked about. And my Golden Bling breaks well and is able to either get the lead or just sit close. Like her and Catch the Devil, like the race I think is going to go through them and what's going on with those two.
Yeah, I mean if Catch the Devil doesn't win the spot based on just her speed figs,
they got to drop.
She's never going to win.
Yeah, she's got to be in a claiming spot sometime soon because this is one of the softer spots that she has ever been in, probably ever. Andy, awesome stuff, man. Thank you for helping us out here going through races 5 through 10. So we'll definitely be bringing you back a few times throughout the meet where we go talk some Sam Houston. But I know you're a busy man right now because you have a couple new ventures going on. Tell us a little bit about the website, the Zoom stuff you have going on. I'm hopefully going to be joining you coming up sometime soon. Give us all the details.
Well, you're joining us next week, hopefully.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, Caitlin Free and I've decided to collaborate and begin a site called, it's the phonetic sound of GOAT, so it's GOAT, handicapping.com. And we basically decided that it was time that, one, with Stable Do becoming a big deal, it's important to have other outlets to be able to find information about how you would establish a Stable Duel lineup for fantasy horse racing. I don't think there's enough information out there with international racing other than the daily racing forum and the lower level, the basic spots that everybody knows about. So, with Caitlin's love for international racing, I think it was just a perfect fit to be able to have a outlet to where she could go in and she could provide all the information that she is aware of and help, the basic customer out that may only play once or twice during Royal Ascot or something like that. And we've also decided to start a channel called the GOAT Zoom Room on YouTube. And, we interview jockeys, trainers, racetrack executives, other handicappers, other podcasts that do horse racing because we don't think that enough information is out there for people to understand that, as far as horse racing is concerned, it's a huge deal to be able to, we all have to stick together because this game is shrinking because we're all getting older. So we need to bring new blood in. And the other thing is that I think it's important that, everyone knows that most racetrackers get along and it's a family. And yeah, we could fight and argue on Twitter and all those places, but in the end, we all look at the races the same way and we all like making big scores.
Yeah, we're on the same. It's funny.
People on here.
We're playing against each other, but we're on the same team. right? We're all customers. We're all fans. We are all bettors. We all want to win. That's what we want. And so I feel very similar to you, as someone who has my own show here. I listen to all of the information out there, and I just try to be a sponge, right? I think you can learn something from everybody, even if it's like something that you don't want to do. Right? Like, oh, that worked for them. You know what? I don't like that angle. Or, you know what? That doesn't seem like it works as well. Or that, like, you can learn something from everyone, from every situation. Even if as horse players, we all have big egos sometimes. We don't think we need help, or I don't need to hear what they say. I completely disagree on that. I want to hear what everyone thinks, because maybe somebody's going to teach me something that I don't know, or I'm going to figure something out by doing that. Like, you can always gain from learning to really smart people talk.
You really, and you know what? The crazy thing is that I think it was after Charles Simon and Urban Handicapper ended up doing their Going in Circles podcast. Somebody had tweeted out, "Oh, like, we need to be inundated with another horse racing podcast." And my thought process was, well, yeah, you do.
Yeah.
Because if, more podcasts are out there, you never know when someone's going to be listening to them and go, you know what, it's kind of interesting to go to the racetrack, or it's kind of interesting to know about this person, or how they live, or why do they look at horses that way, or, those are things that, the way you handicap is different than the way I handicap.
Yeah, exactly. The different perspective.
We all have different entrants.
Yeah, and they like, you're going to look at things way differently I am, and we're going to come to meet, and then in 2 of the 5 races we talk about, we're going to love the exact same horse for completely different reasons, or maybe the same reason, and then we're going to be different in the other few. That's what's so great about it. It's that there's just so many, like, that perspective doesn't work for you. Okay, cool. Like, let's see what this person has to say. I'm just not as I don't like the whole, I don't need to hear what they say kind of stuff, because I just feel like, you said, more voices, more perspectives, more different insight from smart people, from stupid people, from anyone who's got an opinion. That's fine. I'm curious of your opinion. I'm curious what works for you, and I'm going to see if those kind of things can work for me. The bigger goal in this whole situation is that we have to grow the sport. And yep.
Having someone like, recently announced Miss USA 2021 contender, Caitlin Free,
an ambassador, right?
She's an ambassador. Acacia Courtney has done a great job being able to parlay that into a place where she's on the younger end and is able to bring, people that may not have ever understood horse racing, but you know what? They'll follow her career, so why not get involved?
Caitlin does a phenomenal job too with the international stuff. I've worked with her and done a few things before over at Past the Wire, and she does last year she just with international, and it's not like, what's funny is she's an international expert in that she knows what's going on there, but she knows everything that's going on in North America, all over the big races everywhere. Anyway, she can have a conversation with you about anything, which a lot of people can't.
No, and the better part about Caitlin is that she's young, she's driven. You don't have to push her to do anything. And I've said it on our podcast a couple times, and our show a couple times, she's definitely the future of racing. Hasn't been given an outlet to be able to show everybody what she has, and now she does. So, when I came up with this idea of having this website and all that, she was one of the first people I thought of to have as part of a collaboration, and be able to have her stuff out every single day and let her show people what she's able to do. Because, Twitter is, the sad thing about Twitter is everybody looks for the one thing you do wrong, and that's what they'll go with. They never go and say, you know what, Gino picked 7 straight winners in a row, but you know what, Gino made a comment about this horse and he was wrong, and Gino's a bad handicapper.
Yeah.
Because forget about the 7 other times you were right. It's that one time you were wrong.
It's the one. Yeah, it's always that way. But you sort of know that you're doing something right when that happens, right? You kind of feel like, I guess people are listening at least for them to know when I'm right and when I'm wrong. Andy, man, this is always a blast with you. You do such a great job. We appreciate all the work you put in here, and I look forward to having you back many times. Give us your plugs one more time. Where can we find the YouTube Zoom room and your website?
So you can find us on the GOAT Handicapping Zoom room, or just go into Google and type in GOAT Zoom room, all one word, and you'll find that. You can go to the phonetically spelled GOAT, so it's GEEOHAYETEE handicapping.com. You can find us on Twitter at Villanueva 3RD or at Caitlin Free, or at at GOAT Handicapping. Those are the three. But, as always, it's been a pleasure. If you happen to be at Sam Houston at any time, you can find my Pick 5 picks, which will be available every single day at Sam Houston Race Park. And I just look forward to the meet.
Andy Villanueva, handicapper here. Thank you so much, buddy. We'll talk again really soon. Good luck this weekend.
Thank you. You too.
Don't go. Big thank you to Andy. He'll be back again to talk some Sam Houston with us throughout the meeting. Before we get to our final segment of the show, we want to let you know about oldsmokeclothing.com. I know you're a horse racing fan, and this is a great website for horse racing. T-shirts, hats, zip-ups, quality clothing, hoodies, tank tops, long sleeves. When you use the promo code GINO, you get free shipping on your order. We're talking custom designs, whatever you want. They have special collections you can check out, like the Kentucky Derby, the Secretariat. You can represent some of your all-time favorites: Tiz the Law, Midnight Bisou, Authentic, She Dares the Devil. oldsmokeclothing.com, promo code GINO gets you free shipping on your order. Now we get to Chad Cooper. Koopaloop is going to be joining us hopefully every week, at least every other week, for this week in wrestling segments where we can recap a little bit of everything going on. And in this particular episode, we talk about AEW, we recap what went on Wednesday Night Dynamite, some thoughts on Friday Night Smackdown, some of the storylines going on there. We talk about Raw Legends Night, some quick thoughts on NXT, and we look at some of the current favorites and who feels like they have an opportunity to win the Royal Rumbles, the men's and the women's, coming up in just a few weeks. This week in wrestling, we hit on all the major topics and all the storylines going on in AEW, WWE, with Raw, with SmackDown, with NXT. Chad Cooper joins us next. Really excited about the news in the world of wrestling each and every week here on That's What G Said. So what we're going to do now in 2021 is we're going to have a segment, probably a weekly segment that we can, with our good buddy Chad Cooper, a little Wrestling with Chad Cooper segment where we can go around and talk about some of the major news stories in wrestling, what's happening on AEW Dynamite, what's happening on Raw, SmackDown, NXT, anything going on in the world of wrestling. We welcome in a good buddy that you've heard many times on That's What G Said before, Chad Cooper. Chad, buddy, Happy New Year. How are things going?
It's going well, my friend. Happy New Year to you, Gino.
And before, unfortunately, we got to start right away with sort of a bit of sad news. The world of wrestling lost a great one last week in John Huber. And I just wanted to mention it a little bit. I talked about it just for a second on the show last week. But, Chad, this was a guy, and just like a wrestling sense, he was a guy that so many people were always looking at as, wow, this guy is awesome. He's so good. He could be like a main eventer in the main event picture. We always wanted a little more for him. And the response that came out from people over the last couple weeks, this is one of the most, I think, like, surprising responses in a positive way. I just did not realize how many people this guy had touched.
Yeah, not only a great talent in the ring, from all accounts, right? A great family man. And you've seen that, from all the workers on every platform, whether it's WWE, AEW, New Japan. I mean, he had touched everyone in their life in some form or fashion, throughout, his professional career. And he was so amazing in the ring for WWE when he was, when he worked with Bray Wyatt. And just a great guy out of the ring, and then seemed to get really rolling in a professional sense of it when he signed a contract with AEW with the namesake of Brody Brody Lee, the Bruiser Brody type. He gave that persona. That's probably where AEW got that, kind of name from. He's kind of a gentle giant, a great guy out of the ring, so talented and so young, and to be one of the nice guys. Not that anyone deserves anything after, they pass, but you hear a lot of times that some, did not have lavish lifestyles. We're into this. They did this. This guy apparently was a great family man and a great worker. And I think AEW and WWE, kudos for what they've done in keeping his name and memory alive. But very sad and tragic, here in the early parts of the new year.
And hopefully the legacy will live on with his son, Brody Lee Jr., who just seems to be someone that everyone's gravitating to and really trying to do their best to make things just a little bit more a little bit better for him in just an unbelievable situation. So it's really sad news, something we wanted to mention and give a little respect to him, because it's just been so powerful to see how everybody has responded and reacted over the last couple of weeks. This guy was so loved, and he will be missed forever. And never easy to transition from that into, talking about the AEW Dynamite show on Wednesday. But it does seem like you said, like, they're going to do little things that will continue to honor him throughout the shows. And on this particular show, we ended the show with a really big closing angle, Chad. We got the quote-unquote Bullet Club getting back together, the band getting back together. Jericho, when he was on commentary, he couldn't even say the Too Sweet, so he keeps saying, they're doing the hand thing! They're doing the sign! The sign! So the closing angle coming out of the show, it was... And then we'll go back and talk a little bit about what happened before. But we had a Kenny Omega versus Phoenix main event match for the AEW title, and Don Callis distracted Phoenix throughout the match. Kenny was able to win, and post-match, we look backstage, and Pac and Penta are getting beat down by Eddie Kingston and his goons. So now Don Callis and Kenny are out in the ring, where they're going to start trying to beat down Phoenix, and here comes Moxley. Moxley comes in with his barbed wire bat. He starts going crazy, and then Pillman Jr., couple other guys come out. We got a brawl back and forth, and it gets to the point where it's the Young Bucks coming out, and everybody figures, oh great, it's the Young Bucks. They're one of the EVPs of this company. They're here to save their company. They come out and they kind of wait. They look around. They super kick. And then they hold up the Too Sweet sign. So right now we've got Kenny Omega, Gallows, Anderson, who showed up. The Good Brothers came out in order to help this get along. They are back with the Young Bucks. So we've got some TNA Impact interaction here. We've got what used to be New Japan. We've got a whole bunch of worlds colliding here all together with the reincarnation of the Bullet Club.
Yeah, it's interesting. What was it? Maybe in December that we had the Impact and AEW kind of teaser that the companies would be working somewhat together. And then we have the Kenny Omega angle, Don Callis angle. Don comes to AEW, helps Kenny win the belt. Then Kenny comes over and cuts some promos on Impact Wrestling. And now I think Impact, if it's not this week, it's next week. We have a pay-per-view where Omega and the Good Brothers are in action in a 6-man against Rich Swann and a couple of guys. So that's going to be interesting. But what a powerful way to end it last night. Jericho just put the icing on the cake. These guys don't even work here. They don't even go here.
Yeah. Callis too. There's 3 guys in the ring. They don't even get paid from it.
It was just amazing, but really powerful stuff. I don't know how much the Bullet Club, the legs of the Bullet Club has underneath them, since it's kind of, we had all the T-shirts a couple of summers ago, and then, you had the Bullet Club break up, and then you had some kind of cease and desist from New Japan saying, well, we own it. And we, regardless, it was still a special moment. And the Good Brothers have been teasing, to come over, and to see that happen last night.
That felt like coming over from Impact would like work and fit the most, right?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And those guys, I loved them, at WWE. They're talented. I love their little indie shows that they do. I love their podcast. they're really entertaining. And to see all that happen, it's going to be really interesting to see now where it goes from here, because you've got a lot of directions you can take this. But with the Young Bucks joining in with the quote-unquote hand sign, this is a really big step for AEW.
So let's go back to the beginning of AEW Dynamite on Wednesday. We had a fun 8-man tag to start where the Young Bucks were still babyfaces at the time, and they end up getting the win with SCU there in a fun 8-man tag to start. I mean, that's the thing with AEW. A lot, like, the action is always going to be good, and even really in this current climate of just pro wrestling in general. I mean, how often do we get a bad match on an NXT? Even in WWE during the week, we'll get some shorter matches, but on pay-per-views and bigger shows, like, we're always getting quality 10-plus minute matches. So if you're a fan of just pure in-ring work right now, this is a golden age for you, because there's just so much good work everywhere. We didn't even mention New Japan, who had a couple big nights earlier this week. So, and then we got Moxley really kind of showing back up for the first time in a month. He had a promo here, and we see later on, Chad, that Moxley still has intentions on going after Omega. But what I liked about this promo was it was a very good guy promo, in that it was, hey, I still have unfinished business with you, Moxley, but I'm not going to screw things up for Phoenix tonight. This could be this guy's shot. He said something about, I don't want to stand in the way of destiny, which I thought was a great line. It's just it's one of those things as wrestling fans where it just is very basic and simple. Like, all you have to do is give us a little bit of information, and we just go, oh, okay, that makes sense.
We forget how good Mox is on the mic, because he's so solid in the ring, with the Shield. He had some moments. They all had their little moments, their talking moments. Then Seth Rollins kind of, he kind of reared his head as kind of the leader, so to speak. So we really didn't get a whole lot of Mox on the mic, but that was great. That, saying that, Ray Phoenix has been 20, 30 years. This is coming for this guy. I'm not going to get in the way, but at the same time, in due time, I want what's mine, unfinished business. And then when he comes out with the barbed wire bat, that's just that's a pop moment for me.
Mox is hot right now too, and he's definitely a like, even with the month, like, this felt like a big show for him. It felt like a big, even last week he wasn't there for the I don't think he wasn't out in the ring last night. And last week he didn't have a match or anything, but he had the promo for the John Huber tribute for Brody Lee, and it just feels like he's been gone, but the last couple weeks have really built his momentum back up again, and he's no doubt the contender to come after Kenny. We saw Miro. Here's the thing that I have to ask. I love Rusev. Rusev. I thought that when he was in the Battle Royal at AEW, he's looked the best that he has so far. But who the hell is dressing him? That's the question I have each and every week. I mean, he's wearing these like unbelievably sort of like style, like jumpsuits, sweatsuits that are probably $1,000, but it doesn't make him look badass enough to me. I don't know. Do you like this, or do you not like his look right now?
No, I don't. And I think we were kind of led to believe during the end of his WWE run that, okay, he had the angle with Lana cheating with Lashley, and it was kind of gimmicky. And then we had Liv Morgan and the wedding, and then the cake, and then there's Rusev out there doing that. We're like, okay, this isn't Rusev. When he comes to AEW, he's going to be a machine. This is Taz Jr. back in the day, blah, blah, blah. So, before I crap on it too much, I don't know if this is if he's given some free reign here, and this is kind of what he does. In the age of Twitch and streaming and all these guys doing video games, and they're making money now more than they would make in the WWE. I sure hope this is not what AEW has in mind for him. Yeah. He's wanting to do this because this has been early on, this has been a bust.
Complete bust. I'm not interested in this.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, at all. And I hate saying it because I love him, and I wanted him to be such a big star. Because he has, not only is he really good in the ring and a badass and could work with anyone, big, small, as anything, he's got a great personality.
Absolutely.
The guy is funny as hell, and then he could turn it on to the serious badass, like really quick. He could flip the switch. I would just love to see, I don't know, and maybe that's what's going to happen is he's going to get pissed off at the video game crap and just turn it on and become a monster heel or something. But, we'll see. I agree with you. This is not has not hit home for me right now. Following this, we had a big man battle with Wardlow and Hager. Wardlow is finally starting to be able to show a little bit of what he could do in the ring. And this led to later on where we see MJF, who's doing the wheel weaselly, sliding in, and he's trying to just earn the love and support of everyone in the inner circle before he can kick Jericho out. We can see it coming a mile away, you know, and this was great. He goes in, he tells Hager, hey, you know what? Don't be upset about the loss. It was a great fight. Hey, you're still undefeated in the Octagon. I mean, it was pretty good. This was good.
Yeah, it was. And, you know, it's kind of like Mox doesn't really need the title. I mean, that kind of put him over the top as an international superstar. He doesn't need the title. I don't know, even though MJF is really great in the ring, I really don't know if we have to see this guy in the ring every week. He's so dang talented on the microphone. This guy, I don't know what it is. You know, you love to hate him, but you can't wait for him to come on. It's kind of like the old Bobby the Brain Heenan. You can't wait to boo him, right? I can't wait for this guy to speak every week because it's so funny. You love to hate him, and he kind of grows on you a little bit. He's really good. He's good.
So good on like keeping kayfabe too on social media and everything. The stuff he did with Brody Lee Jr. last week, just letting the kid just crack him. It's just he just gets it, and he is no doubt one of the biggest stars in wrestling right now. One of the biggest stars in the world right now. Snoop Dogg walked in with a little juice to complement the gin of Private Party, and we had the Matt Hardy Private Party interaction. I like, you know, Snoop later was a little more fun. This was kind of a weird Snoop segment because he just didn't really do much. He just kind of stood there for a while. You'd figure when you have him, you want it maybe a little bit more, hear him talk, but Snoop was so good in the on that boxing fight like a month ago. Everybody wants a piece of him now.
Yeah, and I don't know when the show starts. I'm sure he's on there as part of the contract to help promote this new show. He's a judge.
The big Bert show.
Yeah, and Cody Rhodes is a judge, and Bert Kreischer is the host. I think it's coming on TBS or TNT, so I'm sure this was a part of that. No, I'm a Snoop fan. Love the music. Grew up Snoop Doggy Dogg stuff. He really never did anything for me in wrestling in WWE when he did his segments with Sasha Banks and all this other stuff. It was fun. The horrible doggy splash that we saw later in the night was kind of like
he fell off. It's like he fell off of the
right. But yeah, it was kind of a weird segment, you know, to introduce, you know, Snoop to AEW. But you know, it is what it is.
Fun seeing Snoop
sure.
on our TV. We got a Brian Cage Taz weigh-in segment with Darby Allin. They were pumping next week's TNT title match. Cage weighing in at 272, Darby weighing in at 170. and as the heels get ready to attack, it's Sting! And I mean, I get a pop for every time we see Sting on the TV too. I think this is probably going to be the last week where they can do this same sort of thing, right? Without moving it forward. They got to start moving things forward next week.
Yeah. Either we've got to set up a match at a pay-per-view or something, or we've got to set him up main eventing a match on Dynamite because, you know, I love Shivani. You know, I love the pop. But now it's kind of like, okay, this is 3 or 4 weeks of Sting. Okay, what's next? You know, the newness kind of wears off a little bit. This is great, but you know, let's see Sting do something.
Talked about Cody with Snoop Dogg in his corner, and he did the post-match Snoop splash off the top rope. There, Cody ends up beating Matt Sydal, and him and Snoop have a little fun, and Matt gets in the mix afterwards as they count the 3 there. I would say one of the still weak parts of AEW shows are some of their AEW women's title stuff. I do like the character Abaddon. I think she's a type of character that you want on your roster, right? She's a Kane Undertaker kind of, you know, like blood all over, and she plays the gimmick really well. I don't like, one, having her sort of lose right away, and two, it just like with Sheeta. She is awesome in the ring. I have no issues with her in the ring. I just don't feel like she's quite connected. So this to me is I'm always still like wanting a little bit more from some of these women's segments, and I'm just waiting for the time when they actually sort of say, okay, hey, Britt, it's your time now, because it felt like it was going to be her time, and then she got hurt, and I think they had to go in a different direction. Where do you stand sort of with Abaddon, Sheeta, and the women's division?
You know what I'm going to say? This is without a doubt their weakest division on, they have some talent, and they have a lot of talent. It's just, if you want to see women matches on AEW, you've got to tune in on Tuesdays to the 13-14 match AEW Dark, where you see the likes of Thunder Rosa, who is really, really good, an international star. You've got to see some of these other independent names that they're bringing in now every week. We're not seeing that. And I know there's some political stuff behind the Sheeta with the title, which I'm not going to get into because, I'm not there. I know, you hear who books these matches and you hear who does this. She's great. She doesn't do anything in the ring for me or outside the ring. There's really no personality. I really think they can make this belt stand out. You kind of brought in Ivelisse and Diamante to win this tag team medal deal. You never see them on live TV. You always see them on Dark. It's really, really weak. And it's really strange because a lot of those girls are under contract there, though they're never on TV. And it's very disappointing to have to go on YouTube, which I know a lot of people do now. I love YouTube, but for wrestling TV, I should think, look what I'm not saying they do what NXT does and give half the show to those girls because they can get after it. But maybe if they do, we'll start seeing some of that development. And because of now, you don't get that feel watching it on YouTube. I can watch anything on YouTube. I want to see AEW's women roster on TV, and I don't want to see the same one or two women in the matches every week in the same winner. I'm really down on.
Me too. And then that led to the main event that we talked about, the Kenny Omega Phoenix stuff. So a fun show. And what I miss a little bit in wrestling is what they did at the end is the end of the show. What's going to happen next week?
Yes.
We used to get that on Raw every damn week, right when it went off, and it was like, oh no, like what's going to happen? Oh crap! Like I don't feel like we get enough of that, and we did this week for sure on AEW. So I thought a good Wednesday night show. Let's shift the focus over to WWE. A couple things to hit from just on the Friday night SmackDown side, then we'll get into Raw Legends. I'm a big E guy. I love Big E. I'm glad they put the IC title on him, and now I'm hoping that this can be a stepping stone for him. The only thing I'm a little worried about is, seeing Roman Reigns there. I don't see him losing anytime soon, so I just hope that Big E can continue on his trajectory and maybe sort of not have to run into Roman for a little while, because I don't want him to run into Roman and lose and then knock him back down.
Yeah, because, you hear all sorts of rumors. I mean, you can read and see anything you want, but the one thing I do keep hearing is he may be getting prepped to win the Royal Rumble. It's coming up here pretty quick. And if he does that, we're going to get him and Roman Reigns, I know we'll get into the Goldberg stuff here in a second. We know that's a week one-off, just for those to tune in and maybe try to clean up Goldberg's disastrous Saudi Arabia match with The Undertaker. But Big E is one of those guys. The company likes him. I think he's even better now that he's kind of apart from the New Day. There's nothing wrong with the New Day. Sell a lot of merch, funny, fantastic, all great workers. But it just seems like him by himself, he's able to, all right, the focus is on him. He's able to have more one-on-one matches instead of these kind of silly tag matches where he's kind of in and out or what have you. But I think he is a legitimate player to win the Royal Rumble.
I agree. And when you look at a lot of the odds too, so that's a good tangent. Let's talk a little bit about that right now. So Royal Rumble favorites, as we look, just some of the betting odds and some of what we see out there. Big E, Daniel Bryan, Edge is a name a lot of people are talking about because he's due to return. Remember, he came back at the Rumble last year. Keith Lee is someone who's been sort of around the main event. Sheamus could make sense with his interactions with Drew McIntyre. And even someone like Seth Rollins is a surprise name that could return now that they've had their baby. He could be back in a few weeks and pick things back up. So on the men's side, what I like about that is it feels like that's a bunch of new sort of like new faces, new names, right? Those aren't like recycled main eventers over the last year or so.
Yeah, and I'm okay with any of those.
Me too.
Seth Rollins, he kind of had his run with the Rey Mysterio feud. He's kind of been off of television, like you said, because he's a new father now. Sheamus is a guy that they're teasing. We've talked about it before, to him and Drew McIntyre to get in it. We've already seen them get in it, at a bar type setting. Those are some good names. We saw what Keith Lee could do on Monday night. That match, him and Drew McIntyre tore the house down. It wasn't like we weren't expecting that, because Keith Lee is an absolute star. But any of those names are good. I could see any of them making that run that we've mentioned, but I just keep hearing that Big E may be the guy, and this may be his year to win it.
Big E could be a huge one for him. Some other cool stuff going on SmackDown. The Roman KO Jey Uso stuff. I mean, Jey Uso has become like main event Jey Uso, and I love the story, everything going with him. I think Kevin Owens has done a great job. It's just a little bit of a bummer when they have a great feud like this. This almost felt like some of what was going on with Kingston and Moxley in AEW, really good stuff. We know KO has no shot. That's the only problem with something with this back and forth.
Yeah, and it's kind of the underdog role, and we love Kevin Owens, and we love what he's done, since he's become a professional wrestler. His days in Ring of Honor were just absolutely amazing when he was Kevin Steen. But the cage match was great. You knew how it was going to end. Him and Roman, him and Jay, they could, Kevin can make anybody look good. Not that Roman's not that Jay's not. So it makes for great matches. Okay, are we going to end that this week? There's still, we do have 2 matches, that were announced. You talked about Big E. I think he's defending his IC title against Apollo Crews. I think we're getting that match on SmackDown this week. And I'm sure we're going to have some sort of fallout with Kevin Owens and Roman Reigns. It's fun and neat to see him chasing, but we know he's going to lose every time. And I hate that they're continuing to do that to Kevin Owens. He needs to go in another direction pretty quick.
Yeah. Sasha, Carmella, the sommelier. Oh, I love the sommelier. It's just phenomenal. And that's just a great, just something that's so simple. It's like there's never been, a sommelier. He's a valet. He does anything like a manager would do, but to me, it's phenomenal. I love this guy. I think he's going to be like Ellsworth over the next few months, I think.
Absolutely. And who doesn't love Carmella? I mean, just the simple fact that she's out there performing is good enough for me. And she's gotten really good in the ring. I know she took a lot of criticism early on, and maybe some of that was worth the criticism, but she has gotten so much better, and her and Sasha matches are really, really good. Really good.
Yeah, I completely agree. Carmella is doing some of the best in-ring work ever of her life right now. We move over to Raw, Legends Night. What happens when they have Legends Night? The viewership gets up a little bit. It was up 20% again from last week. Hogan, Flair, Alicia Fox, Tatanka, Mickie James, Sergeant Slaughter, Molly Holly, Big Show, IRS, Mark Henry, The Boogeyman, Torrie Wilson. Some of the legends that we saw. One thing that I'm happy about, although he has not been getting booked very well, my man Miz got the Money in the Bank contract back. Yeah. So, which I think is good for just the contract in general. The last couple years with guys losing, it just hasn't felt as important as it used to. So I don't like the idea of just, not cashing it in, not working again. I want this thing to be a big deal and to be the thing that it used to be, to put the rocket on someone.
Yeah, I love this guy is a star. He always has been. I mean, from his MTV days, I've had the luxury of being able to interview Mike several times throughout his career, and such a nice guy on and off camera, on the phone, however you interview him. Smart. I mean, his show, Ms. and Mrs. on the USA Network, is an absolute hit. It doesn't help with Maurice as his wife, but I like that they gave the briefcase back to him. I'm a John Morrison fan too. I love them together. I think here over the next couple of months, maybe we see some sort of a breakup. I don't want Morrison just to be a kind of a mid-card player and do his spots and lose, because bringing him back and putting him with The Miz was absolutely perfect. These guys feed off each other when they got the briefcase back. They were dancing down the steps and all this stuff. But You have them beat the New Day last week, and then they turn around this week and lose. Yeah, I don't want him to be the lovable loser type guy, with the briefcase, and he still loses all the time. I don't want that. I really don't want that. I don't like that.
I didn't understand. I love the Miz, but I didn't understand why the briefcase got put on him in the first place. Right?
No,
like he seems like he doesn't need it. He's a fine.
No.
He's fine where he is in the upper mid card to slide him into the main event when you need someone. Like he's got a great role there in the middle. Him and Morrison have him do tag stuff. I would have rather seen Morrison with the briefcase.
Yes,
completely. And Miz could have helped him along the way and said, I've won this before. I know what you need to do. I will help you. That could have been a really cool thing. So we'll see what happens. I like that the briefcase they're trying to make still matter. I don't need it to be on Miz. It could have been better. And Otis, who knows, but it would have been like anyone would have been great. I mean, like a Mustafa with the briefcase or someone like that, just like a heel that you have that you want to be able to throw into the mix, the main event some time. What was kind of interesting about this show is I know it was because of Legend show, but they really felt like this show was sort of built around Randy Orton. Like he's getting another push, which is kind of weird because he's not like he just sort of got shuffled out of the main event title picture with Drew. He didn't burn Alexa to the crisp last week, which we found out. That's a positive. So she's not burned. But yeah, I don't know. I'm wondering if this was just because the Legends are back, the Legend Killer Randy Orton. Is this just a 1 week thing, or is this something more? Are they trying to maybe get him ready for Edge? Was this like a tease for Edge to come back?
That's a good point.
I didn't really think about it until right now.
That's a really good point because we really want to see them have a match. The theatrical match. Yeah, it's great for television, but the segments. Orton is so good. The segments with the Big Show. Mark Henry telling he needs to will himself on out of here. Ric Flair calling him a pathetic old man. You've got a good point here. You've got a really good point. And then, just a great solid match between him and Jeff Hardy was something I needed to see on Monday Night Raw. And that was a solid, good old WWE wrestling match with Orton the Great Heel, pulling the earlobes of Jeff Hardy. Just a good solid match. But I think you bring up a good point. I think it may be time for Edge to come back.
So Orton is interacting with Legends all throughout the night. Big Show, Mark Henry, he's on the scooter. He's having some fun, and he's picking on them all throughout. We then had AJ versus Elias, but it looks like they're pretty high on Omos. The AJ's big corner man who has looked really, really imposing. Elias has Riker out there with him as his other, but almost maybe someone in the future. I think he's still got a ways to go, but definitely someone that they seem like they're high on.
Yeah, and I think it's really smart to put him with somebody like AJ Styles, who's just an absolute Hall of Famer in every fashion of the word, sports entertainment or professional wrestling. Let this guy be on TV a lot. He's not going to, so to say, learn the moves at AJ Styles because it's two completely different, body frames. We have a giant, and then we basically have a cruiserweight type wrestler. But I can see him turning on AJ turning on him. I know they're high on him, and I know he's doing a lot of extra work at the Performance Center from the reports I keep reading. But, yeah, I think they like those big guys, and I think he's the next big one they're going to try to push.
So Charlotte, Ric Flair had a little interaction. This is another thing where is this more than just Rick being around for Legends Night, or do you think this is something that we're going to see? Like, is Rick going to be around now in the next month or so?
Man, I hope we don't go down this road, right? We've been here. We've been here. He's cried multiple times. I love Ric Flair, my favorite all time. She's berated him before, and now she says, stay out of my business. I'm hoping this is just a part, show deal for the Legends Night. Then you have Lacey Evans, going over there and who I love. She goes over there and kisses him. I didn't understand why that Lacey and Peyton Royce went over. I like Lacey and Peyton Royce. I like what they do on social media. Why Peyton Royce was broken up with the Iconics, because I love Billie Kay, what she's doing on Smackdown. That's unbelievable. But I hope we're not going down this road again. It just really takes a lot from Charlotte coming back, because she's one of the names, that could win get that big push here, for her title, WWE Raw Women's Championship to come back. But I hope that we're not doing this again. It's not for me.
No. Yeah, we've seen enough of it. Charlotte's great to be there. She's always just someone that you can put in, and she makes things feel more important. But we don't need the Rick stuff with her. She seems like she's outgrown it. She's her own now. We just really don't need it all that much. We had Lashley and Riddle have a little back and forth. It looks like we'll probably get a match at the Rumble with these two for the U.S. title. Riddle gets the roll-up win. This was almost like a heel move, like he was tapping out, and then it was like backwards booking. But maybe we're going to be having some bro nuts in a couple weeks at the Rumble here, Chad.
Yeah, I like that, and I think we've already seen this with Cedric Alexander. But I think we're starting to see the cracks in the foundation of the Hurt Business. It was fun for a while. It was neat. It was something new. It's kind of gotten, it hadn't been as bad as the reception for Retribution, so to speak. And I hate where that has went and gone. I don't even know what's going on there. But, the Hurt Business, you're starting to see some problems. Lashley loses on a fluke. And I think later on the night, Lucha House Party defeated Shelton Benjamin and Cedric Alexander, even though Shelton took the pin, but Cedric has kind of been, happy by himself doing some things, and he kind of gets the looks from MVP and Lashley and Shelton Benjamin, but I think we're starting to see some cracks in that.
And Cedric, it feels like, right? Cedric is kind of getting a little too big for his britches now. Sure. He's kind of getting a little, and I could see that's where they had a rough night there with the loss, and then their tag loss a little later on. We had a really good main event, Keith Lee versus Drew.
Oh.
This is probably one of the best that Keith Lee has looked in the last few months on the main roster. They've sort of been start, stop with him, up and down with his pushes, but I thought this was really good. And how in 2021 on Monday Night Raw we had Goldberg, and on Wednesday night we've got Sting. So but Goldberg was really kind of playing heelish here. The only thing that I didn't love is that it almost felt like he was supposed to be talking to Randy Orton. He was like,
right,
you disrespect all the legends. Drew just like gave Hulk Hogan a hug backstage pretty much, so it didn't really add up what Goldberg was saying, but he definitely was acting very heelish.
Yeah, and it felt really rushed too. It felt like there wasn't enough time left over to get that segment over. I don't know if the main event went long, which I'm okay with that because Keith Lee and Drew McIntyre, which was A+ to me. But Drew gets the smart comment back, like, you don't want anything of this, old man, or you're a shell of yourself. And then Goldberg with the push, then immediately it goes off. I mean, USA Network cut that. There've been rumors that Goldberg was coming back, so I guess we're getting this at the Royal Rumble to give it more pop and get some more mainstream coverage. We know how this story ends, unfortunately. I'm a gambling man, so are you. There's no way I'd put my money on Goldberg. I've been shocked before, though, but there's just no way I see Goldberg taking this title for not even a night. There's no way.
Cannot do it.
Cannot do it.
No, can't do it here. But, I thought a good week, a fun week with the Legends. Yeah. AEW had a really nice week, and it feels like we get the same sort of schedule every year, Chad. During the NFL season, WWE sort of takes a step back, and they don't go all in with any of their angles, really. They just don't. They wait, and it's the beginning of the year. Once there's no more Monday Night Football, they start again. You can tell, and they start to build things back up. It's just like clockwork. Every year, they waited till the first Monday night with no football. They brought the Legends back for Legends Night, and I'm excited. I'm not one of those wrestling fans nowadays that's just going to crap all over WWE and just be in on an AEW. And that's why I like talking with you, because I think we will do a good job of being critical of both AEW and WWE, and then also be very positive and praise them for a lot of the good stuff that they do. So I really enjoy the conversations with you, Chad, because we can hit on all of them, and it doesn't ever feel like we have an agenda. Right. With this, we're just trying to tell you what we enjoyed as wrestling fans and things that we like and what we'd like to see moving forward.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, with football kind of winding down, it kind of the Royal Rumble actually begins the WrestleMania season. Though we really don't know much about WrestleMania. Lord knows what will be next week, as opposed to end of March or April. For WrestleMania, but it kind of kicks off WrestleMania season. This is the first big major pay-per-view for WWE, and the winner is gonna get the main event. And AEW's rolling along. NXT is done fantastically well. I know they go up against AEW, and we don't talk about them a whole lot, but man, their roster is loaded. And from what I hear, I believe that you're going to see Damian Priest and Rhea Ripley. I know Ripley has been very vocal about wanting to stay in NXT. For you see why. These ladies work every week, and they have hell of storylines and matches. But those two have gotten the call up. So it'll be interesting to see which brand that both of them go to. But Ripley and Damian Priest are for losing their matches last night. They're getting the call up. They'll be up next.
They got to both be in the Rumble.
Sure, absolutely.
I'd imagine they're both going to be in their Rumble.
Have a good run in it too. Have a great run.
Completely agree. Like Priest should be one of those middle, comes in around 8 to 10, and we see him hang around for a while.
The final 4 or 5.
Exactly.
Yeah, don't need to win it at all.
Yep, he's in there till the very, very end. That would be great. And then on the women's side, like you said, right now it does feel sort of wide open. I mean, I think Bianca Belair is like
I love her.
Yeah, me too, and is being sort of looked at as one of the favorites. I don't think it's going to be Charlotte this year.
No,
I don't think they would do that. I think Charlotte should be in the final 4. She should be in the final 2 even, because then everyone goes, "Oh no, it's Charlotte," and it's the Roman Reigns syndrome, right? Once she gets eliminated, everybody loves it. So Rhea, Bianca, Alexa are some of the ones that I think I've been reading and hearing that you feel like the way they've been being booked. Rhea, I would love to see Rhea come up and win and then say, I don't want to go for the title. I want to face Charlotte Flair.
That would be amazing.
And then she faces Charlotte at WrestleMania. She beats Charlotte. She gets her win back, and then she goes after the title.
And let them headline the damn thing. I mean, excuse my language. Let them tear the house down.
Please.
I think we're to that point. I think we're to that point. Rhea Ripley is a star, dude. She is blown up. She is a star.
Incredible. And you know what? Last year's WrestleMania match, that was one of my favorite women's matches I've ever seen with Rhea and with Charlotte. It was so damn good. And the pandemic stuff and everything, there was a while where it felt like Rhea was a little cold. But over the last couple months with War Games and with just being back in the picture, the match with Io and the match last night, she is phenomenal, and she's ready to come up, and I'm ready to see Rhea, Charlotte, Rhea Sasha, Rhea Bailey, Rhea Alexa, Rhea Asuka. Oh, Rhea Asuka. Give me all of that, please.
Yeah, and you can't deny those matches, right? With this talent coming up, for a while they were bringing up some of these names from NXT and from the Performance Center, and they kind of get lost in these kind of gimmicky things. Lacey Evans was one of them. Not that she's on that level of Rhea Ripley, but they kind of get lost in these gimmicks, and they do this and they kind of do that. You put Rhea Ripley in any of those matches with any of those women, you got a main event, sir.
100%. Chad Cooper, my man, hopefully the first of many this week in wrestling segments. You won't find a show where you're going to get all of the wrestling in about 45 minutes. WWE, Raw, SmackDown, AEW, NXT, some Royal Rumble thoughts. Chad, my man, give the folks some of your plugs out there. Where can we follow you on social media? What do you have coming up?
I'm constantly on Twitter and Instagram at the Chad Cooper on both of them. Don't laugh at the name. There was many more Chad Coopers. I didn't know that, but the THE Chad Cooper. I'm on Twitter and Instagram. Give me a shout. We can talk anything: football, horse racing, sports, photography. I'll talk about it all, Gino.
Chad Cooper, my man, thank you so much, buddy. Folks, you heard where to follow him. Give Chad a follow. He'll be back here. Much more on That's What G Said. We're going to take a quick break, but do not go anywhere. Plenty more to come. Coop Loop. Great stuff from the Coop Man. Appreciate Chad helping us out, talking all sorts of different wrestling there. And that will do it for this episode of That's What G Said, folks. Big thanks to Dave Weaver, Erik, ETOF 21 Sports, Gabe Vartanian, Andy Villanueva and Chad Cooper. And, next week, what you're going to get here, you're going to have plenty of horse racing. We'll be talking about the NFL playoffs coming up, the second round of the NFL playoffs. And we're going to get into Cobra Kai, much more Sam Houston. We'll be covering each of those racing days with that low takeout and all the multi-race exotics. Make sure you to subscribe, download, rate, review, share it around with your friends, folks. Thanks again for tuning in. Have a nice weekend. Joey, close us out, buddy.